the cause of the colour change. An Australian politician has legally changed his name to Austin Trump in a move inspired by President Donald Trump. Ben Dawkins, who is an independent MP in Western Australia, is now listed as Aussie Trump on the WA parliamentary website. He said it was a protest against the ruling centre-left Labor Party. Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya headquarters. These are our top stories. The International Criminal Court condemns US sanctions imposed by President Donald Trump and vows to continue providing justice. China toughens its stance on tariffs in the face of what it describes as US bullying, and it will impose its own taxes of up to 15% next week. The PGA Tour says it is closer to a deal with rival series Live Golf after calling on Trump to get involved. To our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just met with the US House Speaker of Representatives, Mike Johnson, a day after President Donald Trump signed an executive order targeting the International Criminal Court with sanctions. The ICC last year issued an arrest warrant for top Israeli officials, including Netanyahu, accusing him of committing war crimes in Gaza. But President Trump has called the move illegitimate, as Benji Haya reports.
Donald Trump taking on the world's top criminal court, a controversial but anticipated move by the 47th US president.
Well, of course, this decision was expected, but nevertheless, it really threatens to undermine international accountability for the worst crimes and deprive victims all across the globe of justice. This executive order puts the United States on the side of war criminals at the expense of victims of grave crimes seeking justice.
The Hague-based International Criminal Court has condemned Donald Trump's push for sanctions, which it says seeks to harm its independence and impartial judicial work, including its recent ruling against Israel.
The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former defense minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state.
Israel and the United States don't recognise the ICC's jurisdiction. It's why Prime Minister Netanyahu wasn't arrested when he stood alongside his American counterpart in the White House earlier this week, where President Trump announced his audacious plan for the US to take control of Gaza. Only 2 weeks into his second term, the president is bringing his foreign policy offensive to every corner of the planet. Thousands of workers at the country's leading aid agency are being placed on leave, with employees locked out of the HQ in Washington, D.C., and 2/3 of staff stranded abroad, including in conflict zones. The U.S. Agency for International Development has for decades provided humanitarian assistance to more than 100 countries, but it's been described as criminal and a waste by President Donald Trump's unelected advisor, Elon Musk, whose so-called Department of Government Efficiency is being tasked with gutting government finances.
We are going to fight this legally in every way we can.
The billionaire businessman's cost-cutting crusade has attracted a huge political and legal backlash. Donald Trump is even being sued over the Musk-motivated overhaul.
So the key issue with Musk's actions is that it's happening in this zone that we could best describe as a gray legal zone, or perhaps more accurately described as a zone of illegality.
The Trump administration says his proposals and actions on the global stage show he's thinking outside the box, as the White House looks to tip the scales in this rebalancing of democratic governance and the world order as a whole. Benji Haya, Al Arabiya News, Washington.
For more on this, I'm joined from the UK by Sir Howard Morrison, the former International Criminal Court judge. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining me. First of all, Benjamin Netanyahu has just delivered a press conference in Washington saying the ICC is scandalous, corrupt, and threatens the right of all democracies to defend themselves. What is your reaction to this claim?
That's a rather curious claim, considering there are 125 member states who are members of the court, including most of the Western democracies, and a great many other countries who are also democratic in their political nature. I mean, one of the fundamental mistakes that continues to be made is that people think that the ICC investigates and prosecutes states. It doesn't. International criminal law is only concerned with individual criminal responsibility. The ICC doesn't attack Israel or the United States or Russia for that matter. If there is a sufficient reason to investigate an individual, and it doesn't matter which country they come from or who that individual is, then it's incumbent upon the court, it's the duty of the court, to conduct an investigation, because it normally involves the deaths of very large numbers of a civilian population.
Neither the US or Israel is a member of the ICC, but besides this, what kind of immediate impact will the sanctions have on the court, the judges and the member states?
It's really hard to say that at the moment, because we don't know exactly what the full nature of the proposed sanctions are. One reads that it's likely to include visa sanctions against individual members of the court and possibly financial sanctions against the court in general. But all that is going to do is to slow the progress of international justice. And if you've been involved, as I have, in international justice for 25 years and seen some of the horrific things that I've seen and had to deal with, one would hope that other people would be keen on pursuing those matters. It's not a question of prejudice against a state or an individual. It's a question of investigating a complaint and doing so independently.
I just wanted to actually speak to you about justice. The Hague is currently investigating Israel's actions during its war with Hamas. Figures suggest over 47,500 Palestinians have lost their lives. Will they ever be able to get justice or get to the truth of what's really gone on?
Well, that's a matter for evidence, and I'm not going to speculate about evidence of what actually happened to cause the death of all of those people. That would frankly be unfair, because I haven't, as many other people haven't, been able to examine what has been produced by way of complaint and evidence. But unless there is a judicial process, you're right, the chances of anybody, whether they're from Gaza or from a state in Africa or South America or Europe, getting justice is very remote.
The ICC is an impartial court, as you said. Do you think Trump's actions could impact the court's reputation longer term and deter any serious investigations or work that could be interpreted as being against the interests of the United States in the future?
Well, I suppose that's a possibility. But you've got to remember, and this is really very important, that the ICC is a court of last resort. It doesn't have primacy over domestic jurisdictions. They have primacy. So if a domestic jurisdiction is properly investigating a complaint, then the ICC does not step in. And for instance, Israel has a very fine independent judiciary. And if Israel was investigating the complaint against individuals in Israel, whoever they are, then the ICC would not and could not exercise jurisdiction.
Sir Howard Morrison, a former UK judge at the International Criminal Court, thank you so much for joining me with your insights this evening.
You're very welcome.
Now, China says it will protect its own interests in the face of US bullying, signalling a change in tone following a new 10% tariff on Chinese goods imposed by the Trump administration. China's Commerce Ministry says the new tariffs will exacerbate global trade tensions. Laura Westbrook has more.
In a sign that Beijing is toughening its tone, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce spokeswoman He Yongqian told reporters on Thursday that in the face of one-sided acts of bullying, China will definitely take necessary measures to firmly protect its own rights and interests. Previously, Beijing has emphasized a willingness to negotiate, and this is in response to US President Donald Trump's imposition of a new 10% tariff on Chinese goods. He says it's in retaliation for China's role in allowing the drug fentanyl into America. Beijing says its role in the fentanyl trade is just a pretext to impose the tariffs. Now, China said it would impose its own duties of up to 15% on US liquefied natural gas and selected products. Starting on Monday, it also tightened export controls on critical minerals. And analysts say that this move was a calculated response by Beijing. Earlier this week, Donald Trump signaled that a call would soon happen with Chinese President Xi Jinping, but then he said that he was in no rush to speak with Xi, and that's put that call up in the air. Now, a call between the two leaders was seen as being key to potentially ease or even delay tariffs, as conversations with Mexican and Canadian leaders saw Trump give a last-minute reprieve to both those countries on Monday. And Chinese officials are entering potential talks with less bargaining room as China exports over 3 times more goods to the US than it buys. China is also dealing with an economy that is slowing and has doubled down on high-end manufacturing, such as electric vehicles, to grow, while dealing with a protracted property crisis, high youth unemployment and weak consumer spending. Meanwhile, here in Hong Kong, the government says it will launch a complaint with the World Trade Organization in response to those additional 10% tariffs on products from the city. A government spokesman said that the new tariffs ignored Hong Kong's status as a separate customs territory from mainland China. Now, back in 2020, the Trump administration decided that Hong Kong was no longer sufficiently autonomous to justify differential treatment from China, and that move followed the Beijing-imposed national security law that was in response to widespread anti-government protests the year before.
Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, thank you very much. Let's take a look at some of the other stories making the headlines today. Grenfell Tower in London will be demolished following a deadly fire in 2017, which killed 72 people. According to the government, the dismantling of the building is expected to take around 2 years and will be carried out with sensitivity. Grenfell United has accused the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner of ignoring the voices of people who lost family in the fire. 3 former Harrods employees have accused Mohammed Al Fayed's only surviving brother of sexually assaulting them, speaking publicly for the first time. The women say Ali Fayed assaulted them in the 1990s when he and his brothers owned the famous store. A spokesperson for Mr. Fayed says the businessman does deny all the allegations. Now, a British con man who featured in a Netflix documentary has been sentenced to 6 years in prison by a French court for deliberately ramming 2 police officers with his car as he attempted a getaway. Robert Hendy Freegard was nicknamed the Puppet Master because of his career as a serial swindler. He was previously convicted and given a life sentence in the UK in 2005 for both kidnapping and fraud. And reptile handlers in Australia have been left stunned after finding 102 snakes in a backyard in Sydney. They were originally called to rescue a bunch of red-bellied black snakes. The reptiles are one of the most common venomous species in Australia. Now, the PGA Tour says it is closer to a deal with rival series Live Golf after calling on American President Donald Trump to get involved. Trump met with the PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and player director Adam Scott this week as the organisation seeks to help with talks with Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, which does back Live. A statement from Moynihan, Adam Scott and Tiger Woods said that they are grateful that Trump's leadership has brought them closer to a final deal, paving the way for reunification of men's professional golf. On Wednesday, it was announced that this year's US Open will become the first major to provide players on the LIV Tour with an exemption for the tournament that's based on rankings. Live Golf star and 5-time Ryder Cup winner Ian Poulter joined Al Arabiya News correspondent Michal Prendergast at Live Golf season 2025 opener in Riyadh. Let's take a look at some of what he had to say.
Ian Poulter, the first thing I'd like to ask you, this is going to be played under lights. The first time a tournament has ever been played under lights. How has your preparation been for that in terms of, obviously, you've got the lies, you've got the greens. How's that prep been?
It's been good. It's been, for me, half man, half mattress. I like to lay in. So, obviously, teeing off at 6 p.m. is going to be very different. But from a golf playability perspective, it's new, it's innovative. Like, when you see it as it is now, it looks very different at night. So, it's going to be a good test for us all, I think, to be able to, really kind of pick your lines off the tee visually. It looks a little different at night to what it does in the day. So get your homework done over these few days to, to be able to select, exactly where you want to hit it. And it's a challenge, but it's a great challenge. The lights, obviously very different. Standing there, you'll have the odd shadow, kind of, which you have to get used to when you're setting up over the ball. But I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think for us to, showcase Live Golf and do it in a slightly different way and make it a bit more fun, you'll see that over the coverage. It'll be awesome.
And speaking about Live Golf, obviously, the Live Opener is here in Riyadh for the first time. Everyone's talking about it. How excited are you?
I'm very excited. I think all of us, we've played obviously before Royal Greens, but for us to come to Riyadh, I think is special. Live Golf themselves, concerts on all throughout the weekend, which is fantastic. And, it's great to be able to get a little bit more culture here to see the city and, take it all in.
It's well documented, your fashion sense on the course. Are you planning any any glow in the dark?
Well, no glow in the dark. Castor, our new sponsor, we're pretty proud to obviously launch that this week. It'll be the first time, out in the new gear this week. So, yeah, I feel, even though it's not quite bright colours, but it looks great. We're very, very happy with our new clothing sponsor.
So, as competitive as golf is now, we're obviously going into a Ryder Cup here. You're known as Mr. Ryder Cup. Do you ever see yourself coming back into the fray? Obviously, there's talk of Donald Trump. He said in one phone call in 15 minutes he would get a merger done. I know it's not going to be a merger. It's going to be an investment from Live into the PGA. Is that ever possible? I know a lot of fans, they'd love to see you back.
Look, never say never, right? As it stands today, that isn't an option for me. But look, things change quite quickly, like we've seen, you know, in the golf landscape. So let's see how things play out. You never know.
Michael Jordan has said the one thing he's afraid of on a golf course is Ian Poulter. What are you afraid of on a golf course?
What am I afraid of? Well, I've never played against Michael, so I wouldn't know if I have to be afraid with him on the course, but maybe one day I'll get that opportunity to take him on. That would be quite fun. But no, there's nothing really that I'm afraid of. I don't like snakes. I don't like, you know, those animals with no shoulders. That's about the only thing I'm afraid of.
You heard it here first. It's for Michael Jordan. The challenge has been set. So that would break a lot of numbers on social media. Obviously, if you've seen Bryson DeChambeau has done amazing things on YouTube with his Break 50 series.
Yep.
Do you have any plans to engage the world of social media in your own way going forward?
Yeah, I think in the not too distant future, you might see a digital channel coming out. So you'll have to wait and see.
Ian Poulter, thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Let's take a look at some of the other stories making headlines today. Some breaking news. Hamas has released the names of 3 Israeli hostages it says will be released on Saturday. The hostages are Eli Sharabi, Ohad Ben Ami and Levi. So those are the 3 hostages that Hamas said will be released tomorrow. Now, residents living in a suburb of Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, were alarmed when they saw a nearby canal had turned bright red. Local media reports suggest the colour may have been caused by the dumping of textile dye or by chemical waste. The Environment Ministry said in a statement that water samples had been taken to determine the cause of the colour change. An Australian politician has legally changed his name to Austin Trump in a move inspired by President Donald Trump. Ben Dawkins, who's an independent MP in Western Australia, is now listed as Aussie Trump on the WA parliamentary website. He said it was a protest against the ruling centre-left Labour Party. And King Charles and Queen Camilla will be joined by a Hollywood star, Stanley Tucci, for a black tie dinner tonight. The occasion is to celebrate Italian cuisine ahead of their state visit to Italy and the Vatican. Buckingham Palace confirmed the tour will take place in early April, coinciding with Charles and Camilla's 20th wedding anniversary. The rapper and fashion designer Kanye West has announced he's been diagnosed with autism. The superstar has also revealed he was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder before finding out he did have the condition. He spoke openly about his experience on a popular podcast called The Download. Let's take a look.
I went to this doctor, one that worked with Justin Bieber, one that worked with, I'm not even going to name other names and stuff. My wife took me to do that because she said, something about your personality doesn't feel like it's bipolar. I've seen bipolar before. She's educated, so I've seen bipolar before. And come to find out, it's really a case of autism that I have. And autism takes you to a Rain Man thing where you're like, oh man, I'm going to wear this Trump hat, because I just like Trump in general. And then when people tell you to not do it, you just get on that one point.
For more on this, I'm now joined by entertainment journalist Stephanie Tecci in London. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. First of all, Stephanie, Kanye has spoken openly about his mental health for years and even referring to it in his music. What has he said about his autism diagnosis?
Well, Leanne, it has been quite surprising that Kanye West has now come out with this autism diagnosis, because for years he's been talking about his battle with bipolar. But, over the past few years, Kanye West has had many controversial moments, including when he was wearing the MAGA hat again, Make America Great Again, which he's now saying was down to his autism, because he says with his autism, as we know, it's not one size fits all. But for him, he says when people tell him not to do things, that's when he becomes quite fixated on doing the opposite to prove a point. We've seen him lose lucrative deals like he did in 2022 with Adidas over following anti-Semitic remarks. Again, Kanye West is saying that he's been able to distinguish now between when he's having a bad mental health episode and now what he calls going through autism. So for him, it's quite new. And for the public, it is quite surprising, because he is one of the most controversial characters now. And it's hard to tarnish people with autism with one brush now. And Kanye West is someone who is now on the spectrum.
Stephanie, what I find really interesting is, as you say, Kanye West has gone through a lot of ups and downs, controversies, but this is actually quite brave of him to come out and speak about having autism and about being misdiagnosed in the past. What does this mean for the rap world, for the music industry as a whole?
It's very refreshing, Leigh Ann, because, we know when it comes to hip hop and rap, traditionally, they like to keep up this hard man image. And I think for Kanye West, he has been quite vulnerable. He's very vulnerable in his music. And I think this is very refreshing for someone in Hollywood and someone in the music industry like hip hop to be quite open about this. I think, even if we take it down to race within the Black community, autism is not something that's really discussed. So sometimes you do need someone like a figurehead like Kanye West to kind of change the narrative and say, actually, autism doesn't look one way, it can look in a variety of ways. So I think when someone like this strikes a match, it lights the way for others to also communicate about their battles.
Yes, absolutely. Stephanie, I agree. He's got a reputation for always being in the spotlight, and he actually has a new album coming out later this year. I know this is a really difficult question to answer, but what do you think he'll do next? We see Kanye doing a lot of things, but what's next for him?
Kanye West is really unpredictable. This new album is going to be called Bully, and it's going to be released on his daughter's North's birthday on June 15th. But to be honest, I think right now in this entertainment world that we live in, I would not be surprised if Kanye is working on a documentary, especially as there's much interest at the moment between him and his wife, Bianca Censori. And I think as Kanye is slowly trying to get back into the public good books, we want to see what's really going behind the scenes. And you're seeing a lot of artists these days, when they're coming out with an album, it's not just an album. You need to do a documentary with it. You need to do a concert with it. But Kanye is a loose cannon, so we're going to have to watch this space.
Yes, I hope you come back on to speak to us a little bit more about the Showbills wedding. Yeah, thank you. Stephanie Tachi, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. Let's take a look at the top business news. India has cut interest rates for the first time in nearly 5 years to counter slowing growth in Asia's third largest economy. The Reserve Bank of India reduced its repo rate from 6.5 to 6.25%, in line with expectations of many economists. Now, US employers added just 143,000 jobs last month, but the unemployment rate fell to 4% at the beginning of this year. The first monthly jobs report of Donald Trump's second presidency suggests he has inherited a solid labour market. Economists had expected about 170,000 new jobs in January. Turning to sports news now. The former interpreter of LA Dodgers baseball star Shohei Ohtani has been sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison for a fraud and gambling scheme. Ippei Muzaru was ordered to pay back nearly $17 million that he had stolen from the athlete and another $1 million in taxes. He pleaded guilty to bank and tax fraud charges. Now, the Super Bowl is one of the most prestigious events in the sporting calendar and attracts millions of viewers each year. The Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs will face each other on Sunday in New Orleans. US President Donald Trump is reportedly attending the Super Bowl. And here's a reminder of our top stories. The International Criminal Court condemns US sanctions imposed by President Donald Trump and vows to continue providing justice. China toughens its stance on tariffs in the face of what it describes as US bullying, and it will impose its own taxes of up to 15% next week. The PGA Tour says it's closer to a deal with rival series Live Golf after calling on Donald Trump to get involved. And that's all from us on W News. Thank you so much for joining us. The Dressing Room is coming up next. And don't miss Tom Burges Watson with GNT. Good night and happy Friday.
Arabiya News, we go beyond the headlines.
From the latest breaking news to in-depth coverage of global events.
We're not bought or sold. Nobody owns us.
The loss of life, the destruction of property. The conflicts are such a terrible thing.
Context and analysis to help you see the full picture.
The world is in a very dangerous place.
Join us on Arabiya News.
It's very impressive.
Where knowledge meets perspective.
This is the Dressing Room with Arabiya News. And yes, my boys, what's happening? Great weekend,
man, like
week.
Trevor McDonald.
So how's it gone, man? Let's get into what we've been doing individually. We're going to start off with you, Bridgie. What happened, mate? What's your week?
Before we get into the collective,
nothing. Individually, nothing, mate. Just kids football.
Okay.
Kids football on a Sunday, which is nice. It was cold, but the sun was out.
Yeah.
Nice recovery day from the Saturday day out.
I'll tell you what I did. I had quite a busy week. Lots of football. Was up and down the road again. But I did co-coms for the first time, Coley.
Co-coms?
Co-coms for the Forest Brighton game. So good for me. Like when I arrived, I sort of knew it might happen. But then the producer said, look, do you want to do it in the morning? Yeah, we're doing it. So I didn't have to think about it. Because it's harder than it looks. Because you sort of like, you go up on the gantry. So I went up at the City Ground, went up on the gantry. And it's like, you know, like where you've got a great view of the pitch.
Yeah.
Great view of the pitch. And you're with Darren Fletcher, who's a brilliant professional, like top drawer. And you got to just bounce in and bounce out of the commentary and try and explain what's going on in live times. So it's good that I didn't have time to think about it. I think it went well. I loved it, but it's harder than it looks, I would say.
Is it?
Yeah, because you've got to see everything in real time and relay it to the fans. You know what I mean?
I think it's quite good, though, when you're sat up high, you can see everything going on.
You do, absolutely.
Everything.
But do you get confused with the players, though? Like the names and that?
Yeah.
Like,
do you know what Lucy Ward said to me? And she's brilliant as well, because she was doing it with me. And it was a great bit of advice. You know, because when you're far away, sometimes you can't see the numbers.
Yeah.
He said, so write down little notes, like, say, for instance, like Nico Williams, like, orange boots or something clear.
Okay,
so you're on it straight away.
Yeah.
You know, all little tricks like that. And also, if you're talking in the middle of something and you've got a sense there might be a chance. So then you let Fletch come in because he's going to be behind so-and-so shoots, goal. You know what I mean?
And then sometimes you've got to let it breathe as well.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, like, so you can't just come after, obviously, the main commentator and then just... Unless he asks you something, then you come in.
Yeah.
So there's got to be always a little prompt. I tried it once. I turned up.
I can imagine you talking all the way through it.
I could talk. I was going commentary.
Colin Cole swallowed a dictionary.
Using all these big words like I don't even understand myself, just to try and impress. But I can't imagine doing that like on a day to day. I got to respect. You got to respect them, didn't you?
It's a skill.
It's a great skill for commentators. Co-coms. I've heard Rio do a few times.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. You see, like with co-coms, does it really work with three of you, or
good point?
Because it's a little bit. sometimes I feel it's a little bit crowded.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather probably, me personally, I'd rather just
one-on-one
commentator and the co-com.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's it. And then the extra person, I don't really... He could be beside the pitch, give us another view of something, or, you know what I mean? I prefer that. But it's interesting when I'm seeing three as the main people on the TV.
I think more the merrier, I think. It's less talking now.
Don't get paid overtime, yeah.
You just want to get turned up and get paid for doing nothing. So that's your week.
Yeah, what did you up to, Cole?
Do you know what? I went up to... I've been a few places this week. But I went to meet the gaffer, Graham Potter.
Yeah.
I met the new data analysis guy that he's brought in, Carl.
Right. Okay.
So the thing about it is, like, because it's a bit changing at West Ham at the moment. It's a lot going on, and we've got to bring in players for the transfer window. So everyone is kind of leaving everyone to get on with it and not talking to each other, and just everyone's getting on with their jobs, but everyone's still trying to aim for the common goal, trying to get players in, trying to put players out on loan. We've got a few players out on loan, young ones, go out and get experience. So, yeah, it's just a lot of talking to agents and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, obviously it's transfer deadline today. And your phone's been blown. I've seen you actually look more stressed than I've ever seen you look today.
Yeah,
going off.
Do you know what? I forgot it was transfer deadline day.
I only found out because I've just been for an MRI and there was a load of players there.
Oh, is it?
Scans, yeah.
Come on. That's another topic.
I can't remember the name.
Well, you didn't know the names. One of them.
It ain't Haaland or something.
But because you was out on Harley Street, innit? Yeah, that's where they're all at.
Yeah, and little scan on that.
When did you get the results?
I don't really know. I think it's tonight or tomorrow, I think. I'll get a phone call, see what it is. But he was telling me there's so many treatments there now.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, you were talking about stem cells before, weren't you? Like,
stem cells,
straight away I'm thinking, it's going to be an operation, but he said, no, there's all different types of injections you can do to help it.
Really? Even since our day?
Yeah. Even,
is it?
You know, like the way you used to spin the blood and everything?
Yeah.
He's saying now it's just even better. It's like 10 times better.
Really? More effective?
More effective.
I might have to look
at it. A bit late for you two.
Oh, no. If you see my knees, there's no helping. I need an op.
Playing, mate.
Don't.
Mate, I wish I could get back to playing, just like even Sunday league, but I just can't. I can't run these. And that's the thing, when you retire, and if you stop as well, you don't do nothing for quite a while, your body just seizes up, and that's never a good thing.
You retire because of injury in your body,
basically,
you didn't, did you?
No. No. I retired because my legs were gone.
Right. Okay.
I could get myself fit for the games, but the reason I retired, I think I've said it before, we were playing against the New York Red Bulls second team, right? So their second team, and we're playing in New York. I said it before. I know the way they press the Red Bulls like
Red Bulls, yeah.
And we lost 5-0, right? And these little rats were just on me. And usually I could get away from people, and it was like that. And it was in this. I just wanted, and then I was getting so frustrated. I thought I need to get one of these guys sent off. So I tried to get this Ecuadorian left back sent off. I tried to do an experience thing, and he just got up and pushed me. And even he just felt so strong, and I was like, on the floor, oh no, I'm done. Get me out of here. I actually, that night, we went out in New York, got back in, had a good night out, got back into the hotel about 4 a.m, but all for the night. You know, it's funny, innit? I just knew something changed in me. I knew from then, that's me done. There was still 4 months to go to the end of the season, but it was a good night out anyway.
I had the same thing when I'm right at the end. So I came back from Indonesia, the escapades. I've talked about that. When I got back, I went to, so I got offered a trial. I'm like, trial? You see me and my dignity, my pride. I was like, I ain't doing a trial. Yeah. But they was like, no, it's not a trial as such. It's just to see if you can run still. Because we've heard about your knees. And I was like, do you know what? Fair play. Let me come in for a month and try and get going, get fit again.
Yeah.
Went into AFC Wimbledon.
Right.
It's not far from my house. And I was there for quite a while with Neil Yardley.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do the deal. I got to a point where I could kick on again.
Yeah.
But then I even thought, I saw these kids running around me and I was like, I really used to be something. You're getting the aftermath of me.
Yeah.
And it kind of hurt my pride kind of thing when you see a boy exploding past you and you're not that guy no more. You got to try and pull it back.
It's horrible.
That's horrible. Like, it's not nice.
That was like my last year at Reading. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember coming up against Mahrez.
Oh, God, you don't need that, do you?
I know, but I didn't really know much of him at the time.
Really?
And he turned me inside out, and I definitely lost the yard. And I thought, that's me done, mate.
Yeah.
I'm glad he went on to be the player he is, because it made me feel a little bit better about myself.
That's the thing.
It weren't just you.
The thing is, like I think for fullbacks, it's the worst place to get old. Like, because you're constantly one-on-one.
No wingers getting at you now.
In your day, like, you're constantly left one-on-one with wingers. Like, you deal with that. Like, midfield, you can sort of half cheat a little bit and manage your way through. But, because didn't Gary Neville throw it in, like, after Jerome Thomas?
Something like that. And the thing about it, like, the way us footballers our pride is set up.
Yeah.
When somebody you think's inferior to you does you.
Ah, yes.
And then you go, give it a chance. Maybe it was I had a night off or a day off.
Yeah.
And it happens again.
Yeah.
Thinking, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, I know.
And then it's a battle in your mind to say, do I want to quit now?
Yeah.
I've done enough. Have I done enough? I don't want to go out of the game with no dignity and people just laughing at me.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
So that's when you got to probably look at it and probably knock it on the head.
Yeah.
But it is a hard decision to make, you know. It is a very, very hard decision. But
time waits for no man, Coley.
It doesn't. And that's why I always say to the kids of nowadays, just enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
Whilst you're in your prime, you can run about. Make sure you enjoy it.
Make sure you run.
Make sure you run,
yeah.
Because
one day you won't be able to.
You don't have the choice. You don't have the choice. But yeah, listen, there's a lot of things that's happened.
Well, we need to talk about the collective.
Oh!
The collective.
Listen.
That's what we did
before. Okay, so as you know, we're all great, tight mates. And
we had our monthly night out, didn't we?
We had our monthly night out the other day. And this is the debrief.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It was a beautiful time spent with friends and other friends as well.
Yeah.
Bridgie got us an invite to a wedding.
Yeah.
Man attracts people, didn't
They invited us to the stag do as well.
And the stag do and the wedding we got invited to whilst we was out.
All 8 of us.
Yeah. And
do you reckon his missus will wake up to want to go, table plans? Where do we
I wonder if they split us up or stick us together.
I reckon Sunday morning they go, listen, we can put Carlton there. Joe could be there. We'll put him.
So yeah, we had a great time.
It was a good vibe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
My mate picked the venue and the DJ was good.
DJ was good.
Chris
Stussy.
Yeah. Big up Chris Stussy, by the way. Thank you. Bringing the vibes.
Yeah, good vibes.
Good people there.
I told you about as I walked in. You're a bit conscious, aren't you? Because there's a lot of younger people in there.
Yeah, we did look quite old.
Some girls going, look, the oldies are here. She's like, grab my chocolate. Oh, like, leave that, love.
Leave it out.
The
oldies are here.
Yeah. We run the show after that.
Walking past.
Yeah, we were leading the way after that. And after that spurred us on to do more.
It was a good night. Great night. All safe. All good. And then, should we get on to a bit of football?
Yeah, why not? Listen, we could talk about our lives till the cows come in, but we're here to talk football, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, listen, man.
City Arsenal.
The results. There were some results that have come in.
Mate.
What do you think, Bridgie? Like, the City Arsenal game, that's
your old team. What's happened?
Just like there's no pressure, is there? Just like, do you know when I thought when Arsenal sometimes had the ball near goal, there was no real pressure on them. Easy to find space.
Yeah.
And then, like, when someone's running for the ball, no one was urgent or there's no urgency to get down and close it down. Their pressing's just nowhere near what it used to be. Rodri's just missed massively, isn't he?
Mate, if ever... You know one of them, right, that old saying, sometimes you play your best games when you're not in the team because you're missed. Rodri's done his ACL and his value's doubled.
Yeah.
Because he's like, everyone's going, wow, how good is this geezer? Yeah. You're right. All season, they've been off it and Pep's been like, do I play Kovacic? I don't know where Rico Lewis has gone. He says, there's just no legs in the midfield. Arsenal just kept breaking through them.
Counter-attacks just kept going quick, weren't they? It's just sometimes the pass around at back, I get everyone wants to play football. Or do you just watch it and thinking, oh, no, there's going to be a mistake here, bad pass, getting closed down. Arsenal press really well.
They
did press well.
They do. They're organised with their press and they're aggressive. I mean, one of the big things, the big points that people wanted to see was Haaland against Gabriel and Saliba. because of like what he said, the stay humble shout. You know, I mean, there's a little bit of needle between these two teams, isn't there?
Stay humble, yeah.
You could see it.
Humble, eh?
Yeah.
You could see it with them two from the start.
Yeah.
Harden was buzzing to get his goal, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Then it just...
It was a great goal as well. Proper old-fashioned striker's goal. On the far post, bosh.
Yes, bosh.
I love them type of goals, but yeah, the fact that it was 1-1 at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, how did it go so horribly wrong after that?
I don't know.
Or City, because like listen, I think they should have been down anyway.
Yeah.
That Havertz chance.
He had a great chance and he just pulled it wide.
Yeah. That's him though, like he's... that
he's got to put that in there. He's on the penalty spot. He's got two players in front of him and a goalkeeper. Just find the target.
Yeah, to be fair, you can see he's tried putting it right in the bottom corner. He's just dragged it, and he...
Yeah, I mean...
But you're supposed to be of the level where you're hitting targets from there. You don't drag it. You can't. It's not Dragon's Den.
I think, the Arsenal players have come in for the Arsenal players come in with a lot of stick. Obviously, they like to celebrate when they win a game. They like the needle, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, very much so from their manager, Mikel Arteta. That's his personality on the sideways. Him and his staff all up, and that sort of filters this way into the players. Like, so Miles Kelly, who I think is brilliant. I love his feisty, his attitude. Looks like a top player, but he done the Haaland celebration.
Yeah,
that's cold.
Disrespectful.
You knew what he was doing.
Disrespectful, innit? Listen, mate. When I was coming through the youth, and I've got first, I'm not even thinking about doing that.
No.
Like seeing that, but because he's got a little bit about himself, the boy, I don't actually mind it because I'm thinking, okay, so he actually felt it last time. And he wasn't even playing back then. Yeah. That you disrespected my manager. Now I'm going to give it back.
Yeah.
That, for me, shows a little bit of character for me. And I love players with character. See, like, when I first broke into the Chelsea squad, my character was, I can't take no rubbish here.
Yeah.
I can't have my own teammates taking the mick out of me or taking advantage of me because I'm young.
There.
Yeah, we know what happened there after that. I'm not going to go into it. But, I had to stamp my authority on that team.
It was stamped,
but I wasn't looking at it like that at the time.
Yeah.
And then everybody else said, you know what? He's got a bit about himself, him. Do you know what I mean? Like after that escapade, and then after that, like people started to treat me a little bit different. And I noticed the difference, and I was like, okay. And I was still around the first team. I thought I'd be sacked off. I was like, well, I'm still here. So everyone shows their maturity in different ways of getting into the first team. And I think that's how he's doing it, saying, you know, messing around my team, we'll have a little joke back, you know what I mean? It's only a joke,
Sorry, Bridget, I do like that about the Arsenal team, that they're feisty, they're horrible and they're nasty. We was like that at Chelsea. But what I think the over celebrating stuff.
They've done that quite a lot.
Done it quite a lot, and I know people going, "I don't," you know, it's good. I'm just thinking for them, like
it just comes back on you.
Yeah, it does.
Like Haaland's coming back for them at some point, mate. Don't you worry about that. It's coming back to haunt them again.
He's gone to bed in his oxygen chamber, and all he can think of is scoring against Arsenal. He's going to be, and he's thinking, "I'm going to smash Kelly. I'm going to do that. He's going to get it." Like that's what you do if you over celebrate. So we was always talking.
It's going to be a thing going forward, them two, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's praying for his downfall right now, and he's praying for it. I don't like bad energy, but if you get into that ring, man, you got to be able to back it, bro.
Yeah, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly one.
That's what I like that.
That's what you get on the Dressing Room podcast. Bit of philosophy.
Yeah, I love that.
We want a little bit of talk about, you know, the criticism for players in the era of social media. Easier not to read, Bridgie. Players are bombarded every day on every platform. Like, what? We never had to handle it, did we? So
no, you just had the papers, didn't you? So
I thought the papers were nastier. In some
used to be.
I don't know. Yeah,
it used to be because that's the only channel of disrespect you was ever going to get. So they made you know about it.
The thing is, right,
it's non-stop now, though, isn't it? Yeah. It's going to constantly be happening. There's going to be memes all the time. It is non-stop.
But here's my thing. You can, like, the papers were one thing that we all got our newspapers from. So if something was read in the paper, you know that most of the people in football would. Yeah. That was where we all got our information. If someone digs you out on social media, it's coming for you, it can be going round, but you still got the ability to turn the power off, right? And not listen to it.
That's true.
I remember I was once called by a journalist in the Daily Mirror Mate, I was reading it. He did it as an opinion column. I'm sitting there reading it. He called me a ball-juggling little git.
Oh, wow.
That my parents should be ashamed of.
What?
I'm like, oh, mate.
Are you reading this?
I'm not like... You know, like when you're about to have a fight in the playground, it's like, oh no, he said that.
Oh no, you're gonna let him get away with that, bruv.
Mate, and I'm like, when I see this geezer, and I never ever saw him. I won't say his name. I won't even, because like that was personal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That was like. That was your character, and it's a little bit of a like ball juggling little git. Can be that. Your parents should be ashamed.
Yeah, why?
I don't even remember what I'd done. I think he was accusing me of going down too easily. But
that would have annoyed me more. I think the parent shout.
Yeah, I know.
But then I think in this day and age, that's why I love Glenn Hoddle from when I first started. He's done a lot of work on the mental side of the game. But I also think since retiring, I've changed the way I think sometimes, even more over the last few weeks. I think everyone's just different. There's comments like that is kind of like, I always think, if you've had a bad game.
Yeah.
So if they say it, I'll kind of accept it. It's when they haven't, and it's like, well, like when they're saying that about you, the ball juggling, you're not though, are you?
Yeah.
That ain't you.
Yeah.
So it's you just got to accept, oh, well, he says that, so what?
Yeah.
Get on with it. It doesn't really matter what he says.
It took me a long time to, like...
It might be more than one, though, Carl.
Maybe they're onto something then, isn't it?
It's as a person, innit? I think you've got to work on that yourself in terms of... But things used to make me angry, and you want to go and, like...
Prove them wrong.
Yeah, just... Prove them wrong, or just have a word with them and go, have a look at yourself, mate.
I had the same,
being calm in yourself and accepting... I always think if I've had a bad game, I know I'm going to get a bad review or whatever. But then sometimes I've had bad reviews. I think, I think I've done all right. So. But obviously, I think the more I've grown up, I wish I'd been like I am now than what it was when I was playing something a bit more.
Yeah, I was on social media. One of the first footballers on social media. I remember.
You're a trailblazer, yeah?
I was one of the first because I remember walking into the Chadwell Leaf training ground at West Ham, and Matthew Upson. Remember?
Yeah.
Matthew Upson comes up to me, and I was like looking at my phone, and it was on Twitter at the time, and I was getting barrages of abuse.
Right. Yeah.
And I showed Matthew Upson. He goes, "Coley, why are you on there? Like, why are you leaving yourself open for people to be able to contact you and tell you how bad you are?"
Why do you think people do it though?
That's mad. Like, what kind of
they are
person
looking for the positive stuff.
No, so I went on there because I wanted to have contact with the fans. That's how I am, innit? I'm a social butterfly. I love
you
it.
See it on Saturday from
Yeah. I love it. I love being. I love having like interaction with fans and that, and it's just me, innit?
Yeah.
So when I saw this opportunity, say, social media, why not have a look on that? But I accepted that I'm gonna have to take the rough with the smooth, the good and the bad. So there's nothing wrong. I look at it and think, I never. All right. There was a few times, obviously, and it's quite. Infamously, I've got into trouble.
You was one of the first online
guys to
get done by the FA, right?
Yes, I was.
Mate, you do that? Yeah, this is a belter. This is a belter.
Oh, mate. So I think it was Rio Ferdinand was on there. He's one of the culprits that get done.
Yeah.
My thing was, there was twice. I got done twice. One for a joke, and one for just protecting myself a little bit.
Right. Okay.
All right. I'll tell you both.
Go on.
All right. So the first one was someone said something to me on. I think we just got beat by Spurs.
Right.
And Sam Allardyce was the gaffer at the time, or even before. No, I don't even know if it might have been Ali Kirbishley, one of the two. But I can't. All I remember is this guy just coming for me, like says, "Oh, your manager's pet, yeah." And something. I can't repeat the words.
Yeah.
And C *** T.
Right, okay.
Call me something. Yeah? I was like, okay, cool, no problem. I said, your mum is a ***.
Oh my God.
Well, that was a schoolboy playground. You know, in playground.
That's it, you just got to think a little bit, not rush into it.
Well, I didn't swear. I used the ***. But I was referring to, I was insinuating that you are this thing. Yeah. So read between the lines. That's it.
Yeah.
Next morning, I walk in. I get a call from Karen Brady. Karen,
oh no!
I've gone. Oh no! Here we go. What's happened? Because I didn't.
New deal.
New deal. Are you proud of me? I knew something was going to be something to do with the Twitter. I've gone. All right, cool, no problem. But my bad for biting. I bit. Because, as you said, you got to take the rough with the smooth. I was just trying to take the smooth all the time. And the rough, I'd just cane it off. And I'd done it in the way I felt was sensible at the time in my head. And it wasn't sensible because I got done. I had to go to the FA, and I remember having to walk in the FA to the quarters at Wembley. Go to Wembley, sit around a round table, a little bit like this.
Yes,
like a big round table. I'm like, oh, here we go. Yeah. Sit down, and there's a panel.
Yeah.
And then I looked at that panel, I was like, I'm getting done here. They don't like me. I was like, that was the first time, so they've gone 20 grand, bosh, right? I was like, 20 bags? I was like, I ain't got enough money to pay it. I'm living wrongly. Please. I haven't got enough money in the bank to pay that one go. I'll be in debt. And I was looking at Caribbean, can you pay it for me? So there was either that or they was going to give me a 3-match ban. I was like, 3-match ban? So we said, we'll take the fine. Anyway, next one. This was about probably a year later.
Right, okay.
Yeah? I think there was a joke being said. I was in the England squad. There was a joke being said. And I just remember, like, my mate said the joke and he's actually a comedian.
Right, okay.
Kojo the comedian. Look him up. He's quite funny. Very funny, actually.
Yeah.
And I was quite tight with him. And you see me, my character, I love...
We love jokes.
We love jokes.
Yeah.
Want to be happy.
Yeah.
Mate, he said this immigration joke, right?
Right, okay.
England were playing Ghana. I weren't in the squad. I was injured. England were playing Ghana.
Right.
So I was at home watching it. And I was like, you was probably in the squad as well. Yeah. You lot was in the squad. And I was just texting. He texts, don't go, to the England-Ghana game, if you haven't got your papers correct and you're Ghanaian, That's immigration papers, right? So whether you should be here or not, it's questionable. That's what, mate. And then I actually retweeted it. Yeah, I retweeted it. It wasn't my joke. It actually weren't my joke. It was someone else's joke, my mate's joke. I retweeted it. I walk into training the next day. And who was it? Carlton, could you come into the office, please? Karen again.
Oh, no.
And then she says, haven't you learned? I said, I didn't swear, Karen.
I didn't swear.
He said, so they go, you're going to have to go to the FA again. So I've had to trot over to the FA again the next couple of days it was. And then it was like, so I sat down. And this time I sat down. And then it's the same panel again.
Yeah.
Sat down. And I knew straight away.
Really?
I'm back again, innit? But then I was like, I can't get fined for this for someone else's joke. It's not even a joke. It's not a serious joke. It's a joke. And it's an inside joke as well, because basically it's like something that you say between African nations.
Yeah.
So about immigration. So it's a common thing in the African community.
Right.
This panels are full of old, middle-aged, older white guys.
Yeah.
They don't get that sort of banter.
Cool.
So for me to explain that, it was just never going to work.
Yeah.
They're not down. They don't understand it. Yeah. So it was just all wrong. I was always going to get fined another 20 grand. I got fined again.
Mate,
so
where does that money go as well? That's another thing.
Wait a minute. So I was like, okay, I'm 40 grand down. Now, fast forward to today.
Yeah.
I'm seeing so much players swearing, effing and saying anything they want.
Yeah.
That's why I always say, I want my 40 grand back. I want to be reimbursed.
Reimburse Cole and Cole. FA, we're coming for you.
Yeah, because that's not fair. How are they getting away with it and I'm not?
I'll be interested to know. I'd love to know where that money goes. I want
to know now.
Yeah,
I
got fined 18 grand at Chelsea and a 2-match ban. Have you ever been fined?
To be fair...
Not by your club, by the FA.
Oh, no, not that, no.
You're such a goody two-shoes.
And when I did get fined by the club, they let me off.
Did they?
Yeah.
What, with a yellow card or a red card or something?
No, it's something naughty I did. You don't need to go into that right now. I think I've sold it.
They let you off?
Yeah, Sparky fined me 2 weeks' wages, and the lads were laughing,
Sparky
to be honest.
Hughes, yeah?
Mark Hughes. And then, to be honest, like all the lads were laughing and they were like, "Oh my God, 2 weeks' wages." So I think everyone was like a little bit like, better not step out of line. Then he pulled me to the side like a month later, so I won't do. Everyone knows not to mess around now.
Good management.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That, innit?
It looked like you set an
I
example.
thought it was harsh. Like, well, it probably wasn't harsh, but yeah.
Right. Well,
would you use social? Oh, I don't think I'd use it if I was playing.
I just think
Because I don't know, because you're always like, you've got to put the good stuff on the bad stuff. Do you know what I mean? I see like, I like Lewis Dunk because I played with him at Brighton, and he put something kind of about the players and sorry and that. I get it, but I just think it'd be easier to just to stay off it.
Yeah,
it'd be easier to stay off it.
You know what you said, like you wouldn't use it, but that's because we've been brought through an era where it wasn't there, and now it's everywhere. It's like, you know, we grew up, so like you had the telephone in your house. Like, imagine, and that's a bad example, but technology is always there. They don't know the world without social media. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
I guess it's one of them things as well.
It's just part of what they do.
A boot sponsorship and things like that. They want
it
you
works,
to have it and all that
works.
stuff. Yeah.
Advertisement.
I went on
that
it.
Sort of stuff.
I went on it until I retired.
You're not on Twitter yet.
No, I'm not yet, but because the only reason I retired, BT Sports wanted to give me a contract, and I was like, yeah, right, okay, finish football. I'm going to talk football now. Do that as a job. And they went, no, but we'll only take you if you have a social media presence. So I was like, all right, so what one do you want? Until sat me down this one, you had like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, a few of the other ones. I went, well, I don't know. I can't do them all. Like, I don't. So then Terry just done it for me. And what I would say it's addictive.
The players, though. Reckon they do some? Do you reckon they do their own?
Yeah. Judging by some of them, some of them are definitely doing their own. They're getting in trouble.
I pop in and pop out. Do you know what I mean? Because I recognise how addictive it is, and having kids of my own. Sort of. I want to be a good example. Imagine I'm sitting there and I'm strolling round like
you're not present, are you?
Yeah.
You're not
so
being present.
I try to step back, but I do pop in and say, hello and
what up, people? My people.
Back, Man United seem to do one step forward and one step back.
It does, yeah. Wow, seamless.
That is,
seamless transition.
So look, as you said, one step forward, one step back for Manchester United. So. My thing, Bridgie, on this one, right? Like, how do you have like three strikers, in Xerxes, Rashford, and Højlund? They start this game at home to Palace, and none of them are there to be seen. Like,
I know.
How bad must they be when your gaffer?
How bad would they feel, Coley, knowing that they're playing a holding midfielder as a number 9?
If you're sat there, you're thinking, what have I got to do, or.
It's the ultimate insult, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously Rashford, he's been outspoken. Like, he's not doing this right, he's not doing that. But if you're the others, you'd be like, you probably knock on the door and have a word. When you're being told something. Surely.
How is you as a striker? Because strikers, we're delicate creatures.
Yeah,
and very delicate creatures. And our confidence, we thrive on confidence.
You're the front man of the band, didn't you?
You know what I mean? Like, we need to.
You're the front man.
Come on, we need something more. We need our gaffer to believe in us. We need an arm around us. Your man management for a striker has to be totally different to how you treat the other players. I know that sounds crazy, but it just is.
I think everyone's different. Everyone's got different personality, I think. That's when man management really shows, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how the different man managements, how you get treated differently throughout the year. Like, Jose would... He had me on a bit of string. Like he'd sort of like he'd ostracise me. Like, won't talk to me. Like, absolutely, like, batter me in front of the lads. And then there'll be a game where I played well, and he'd make a beeline for me on the pitch. And he'd like Barcelona, when we beat Barcelona in the quarterfinals, and he made a beeline for me, like, it was like Kevin Costner looking for Whitney Houston, like, I thought, what? No, when he's coming over to me after the game, I'm thinking, what have I done wrong? And he's come round, he's going round to the fans, he's going, God, look him, blind. I'm like,
It's great when he does that. When he's ever given me a pat on the back, it feels good.
And because he was like that with me, so he took the mentality, because he knew that I'd be the type of character that would, I want that, I'd be like, and I'd be doing that. And only like 10 years, 15 years later, then you realise how smart it is. Maybe it wouldn't last for... That's probably why he leaves clubs after 2, 3, 4 years, because it's a hard relationship, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was interesting. But Amorim, I don't know what he's got to do to get them firing. They're like...
And the thing about it, listen, Amorim is a young manager and he's going to make mistakes on the way.
Yeah.
And the way he treats his players, especially the players that he's got at his disposal now, is going to dictate where they're going to finish up this season in the league.
Yeah.
He's walking a tightrope because he can blame the players all he wants. He can make it look like it's not his fault.
Yeah.
He can make it look like it's upstairs' fault.
Yeah.
But the buck stops at his doorstep.
Yeah.
And he's got to make the right decisions. Obviously, against Palace,
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit of a smash and grab from Palace.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it happened it worked in Palace's favour. You got Mateta scoring 2 goals. You're looking at his strike force, and Palace's strike force is firing, and yours is not.
Mate,
they need a smash and grab right now, Manchester United.
It didn't start Eze.
So it just shows you when you've got a fit and raring striker, and a confident striker at that. Mateta is very confident at the moment.
You saw that the way he took his goals. It's nothing. Just smooth, bang, boom, boom.
And I love the way he's come on leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Just because he's got a manager that believes in him.
He's a big size as well, isn't he, Geese? He looked like them Dorman from Saturday night. His shoulders are like that.
Yeah. Not tonight, son. You're not getting in.
You talk about the confidence, like you see Everton.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like what he's saying, it's just a confidence thing. He's giving the boys confidence.
Energy.
Look at the difference in them.
Yeah.
It is massive what a bit of confidence can do for you.
It is.
Because when you get that and you start playing well, like I remember just being at Chelsea and you're playing well and you're getting results, you literally go out there thinking you're going to get a win.
Yeah.
There's no negative feelings. It's just all confidence.
It's good. The Moisaya, as they like to call him.
The Moisaya.
Moisaya at West Ham.
Started that West Ham.
Oh, mate, he's just... I get it, first of all, him going back there, back to Everton. And you know, people would go, well, it's like for like, innit, Sean Dyche? But he's walking in there with swagger now. Because what he done at West Ham was quite incredible, really. Then 3 years, Coley, you know, the European campaigns, winning the Conference League, the top 5 finishes, top 6 finishes. Like, he's strolling back into Everton, a club he knows, with so much swagger. And you're right. That's what... Boys have looked at him, and he would have been so assured, he's got, this is our guy. Yeah, I don't think they're doing much different tactically, are they? No. He's got Beto going. You know, they're strong at the back, good organisation.
He's probably gone in and given them a proper good talk and
And that is what football's all about. I told you that we've talked about this before. If you believe in the manager, and you can see a direction and a pathway to success, you're gonna go with it because he's clear, he's decisive, and he makes you can see in his eyes as well. Yeah, when you're talking to your gaffer, and you can see in his eyes that he knows what he's doing. He's not looking left or right. He's looking at you. Yeah. You're just thinking, I've got to produce here as a player. I've got no choice, or else I ain't playing next week. Someone else is going to come and take my place. Yeah. So, respect to David Moyes. There was never a doubt.
Yeah, there was never a doubt. The Everton fans were doubting it, I think. Cole was definitely doubting it. Yeah, Cole was.
Judging by his dancing on Saturday night.
Toe-tap.
The man was doing Tai Chi.
Tai Chi on the dance floor.
It's fantastic.
You should see it,
But Liverpool beat Bournemouth. I think we all talked about that game last week and said this could be a struggle for them.
Mate, they had some chances, Bournemouth, though.
Yeah.
They did have some chances.
Yeah. What do you make of Bournemouth down there on the south coast?
I got booed every time I went there. I didn't realise they hated Southampton so much.
Really?
You didn't realise?
Back there. Well, I knew that I knew Portsmouth.
Yeah.
But I remember I went back at the end of my career with Reading. I think it was my last game because I had a knee op, and I was 60 minutes in. And I thought, no, I'm done now. I couldn't turn anymore.
Yeah.
And it was my last ever. I think it was my last game. And I was literally getting booed.
Really?
Yeah, it was horrible.
So your last ever game and they booed you off?
I think it might have been.
See, horrible people, what you've done?
Yeah. It was
nicest man in football.
Nicest man in football.
Finished him off.
But yeah, I didn't realise that the hatred was there that much.
Is it that close?
Yeah, it's close. Yeah.
Do you know what?
It's close.
How many goals did you score in your career?
Oh my God, I should remember, but not many.
Right, okay, because
two for Saints.
Two of my earliest. Two of my best memories.
I know where you're going.
Where you did score.
Yeah.
His 2 goals. One of them was obviously the Arsenal goal. I was on the pitch. And when he scored, it was just like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
One of the biggest goals in Chelsea's history. But the other one he scored a belter against Portsmouth. Right? He just signed from Southampton.
Is it?
Right? But Coley, right? If you please, people, go and find this goal and look at this man's face. The joy. They were digging you out, and he's run right past me, and I'm just like, he was so fast.
I ran across the other side of the pitch.
No way!
Telling everyone to get away from me. I was up to the Portsmouth fan.
Yeah.
I got so close to him, and I swear they were just trying to punch me. He's grabbed me, trying to pull me back, thinking I'm going to get hit.
Because you're from London, I'm like, yeah, Southampton. But you don't realise
the rivalry.
The rivalry, and if Southampton.
Actually,
brilliant.
One of my mates must have thought, well, he's from Portsmouth. He must have thought it'd been funny to give my number out. And that night, I was getting phone calls constantly from Portsmouth fans giving me stick. And I was actually sat at home. Didn't go out after the game. A match of the day was on. So I got this phone call, and it was another one. I went, hold on, mate, wait there. So I put the goal on, I played it really loud. I said, have a listen to this. And I was playing it down the phone to them. I had to change my number after that.
Social media before social media was about.
That's crazy. But yeah, look, that game, obviously, look, Liverpool.
They had, like I said, they had chances. Clive had chances.
Yeah.
I wanted to come off.
Mate, on his right foot.
Yeah, come off
is
the side.
he left-footed, Clive?
Right-footed, but he's both, mate. I've seen him strike the ball lovely on both sides.
Yeah, like, I was surprised he didn't put that in the net. And then you got, obviously, Liverpool. Listen, when you're defending against Mo Salah, mate, and you're showing him onto his left as well,
you know,
he's only going one place, isn't it? You know what he's going to do. You got to show him onto his right. Every defender, every left back, right?
It's horrible though, because you get too tight.
Because you're a left back,
He's chopping you. You have got to get tight.
You got to get tight. So is that the thing? So if you was defending against Mo Salah, what would you do?
I'm trying to get to him as he's getting the ball.
Right. Okay.
So he ain't got to run on you. He ain't.
Right, okay.
And then
you need someone.
If he squares you up, you want someone coming in to help you.
Yeah. Okay.
And then now you show him down the line because you know that someone's covering you inside.
Okay.
But first and foremost is literally you're trying to get on his touch straight away.
Okay.
And if you ain't, then.
Yeah, then there's
a plan B, mate. Where's my help? Where's my help?
With my cover.
Help me.
Help.
Well, I say you've got to get closer because you just know what he's going to do, don't you?
True. He surpasses Frank Lampard in the Premier League's all-time top scorer.
Does he?
You know, he's 21 goals so far this season with 13 assists to go with it. In the 23 games he had featured this season. That's incredible numbers. He's putting up better numbers than he has done all of his career.
How he ain't got another contract yet. How they ain't sorted him out yet. It's just... What plan have they got? Or maybe you don't know, do you?
I don't know what's going on.
I don't think I think he's thinking...
He's not bothered.
I think he's playing so well, he's been able to just put it all to the side. And he's looking at... They could win 4 trophies this year. And imagine walking out of Liverpool's, as of Mo Salah having just won the Champions League. You know, we've all talked about him. The Saudi move might suit him at each stage of his career.
Yeah.
You know, everything, it makes sense. But he has to... I'm happy he's staying now, because to finish this job, this could be a momentous season.
Yeah.
He's one of the all-time greats in the Premier League. And listen, he can... Financially, money-wise, he go anywhere he wants in the world and get what he wants, because he's one of the top players,
No, kudos to him. He's one of the best players in the world. He's getting to a point in his life where he's in the driver's seat now, still doing the business as well. That's the crazy part about it. He's not on the downer. He's not going off.
He ain't going off.
Yeah, he's not going nowhere. Like, so it just depends what he wants to do now. I'd love to be in a position like that. Near the end of your career.
Then? Do you reckon
at his age, he was in Borneo.
Oh, mate.
I was in Florida.
Mate,
how old is he?
I was thinking of jumping off the plane over there. Just
33, 34.
Yeah, I was done.
Yeah,
he don't look like he's done at all, mate. No. He's still in great shape, isn't he?
Great shape. Just had his Barnet done as well.
Oh,
he looks
mate.
Amazing.
Flying, isn't he?
Yeah, we've all done that.
Absolutely.
Well, a few of us.
Well done, Mo. Well done.
Right. Chris Wood, hat-trick. I was at the game, right?
Yeah, go on, talk us through it.
Like, first of all, they set up with a back 5 because they got beat 5-0 by Bournemouth the week before. So we interviewed the man, Nuno, before. And then we interviewed the Brighton manager as well. And you just got a sense from Nuno that was a calm, cool, collected man. And then I watched it. They set up, and it was Alanga playing off of Wood. And you know when two players just bounce off each other so well? Because Alanga's like lightning. He was running... In behind.
Little and large.
Little and large, mate. It was old school. It was like the 1990s again. Forrest there was bang.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. And he was brilliant, Chris Wood. The finish from the header when he's peeled off to the far post from Alanga's cross. his hold-up play. And I was talking to Crouchy about him. You know, always, when you speak to footballers, and if they give a player the seal of approval, you know...
And it's the same type of player.
Crouchy said when he was at Burnley, he was shocked how good a finisher Ashley Barnes and in particular Chris Woodward.
Really?
He said, wow. He said, Coley, I'm promising you. He said, I promise you, he can do everything. He can finish everywhere, left foot, right foot, head in.
And I'm like, size as well.
And I'm like, and I look at his career, and he's scored goals everywhere he's gone.
Yeah.
So you're like, he's 34. 17. I think it was 17 goals this year. Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Did you watch him, Bridgie?
I've watched him. Yeah, he's good, mate. Like I said, he's underrated. Isn't he, I think just underrated.
Yeah,
he can finish.
Yeah.
He can score all types of goals.
Yeah,
strong, quick. I'd say he's probably underrated. Yeah, definitely.
I said it and I got laughed out of it. I was on a show about a year ago, right? And we were talking about solutions for Arsenal's problem, not having a striker. And you're looking at it and it was like, we can't get Mbappe because he's gone there and da-da-da-da. And I was like, what about Chris Wood? They laughed at me.
That's a great shout.
I said to him, look, if you're a manager or sitting on the bench or Arteta, you don't have to play him every game, but there'll be certain games and certain periods of games where you need someone to change it up. You know what I mean? He ain't going to let you down. And he'll have the... Imagine you go, Nottingham Forest, this is a year ago. There's 10 million, or might even not even cost that. Give him a 2-year contract. He's thinking, I could go to Arsenal and win something in my career. I might not be the starter. I might be... It's a great deal. He would have... I think... I said it. I got laughed out of the studio.
Listen,
when did you say that?
A while ago.
And the best recruiters, I'd say, head of recruitment, they think outside the box.
Yeah.
Low cost, does the same thing that you want your striker to do, yeah? And it's not really that much. There's no risk.
Yeah.
There's actually no risk because it's low money.
Yeah.
So what's the risk? That he comes in, he's happy to be there, he's going to try. There's a few times that's happened though. There's a few, like you do see odd transfers where you think, well, he's come from there to there, he's not that of that quality. But no, he's come in to do a job, a particular job that's needed at that moment in time for that football club. Whether they're in the Champions League or not, it just depends if that player can fill in that role. And it just might be the missing piece to make everything tick. I'm not saying that's going to be your main player.
Yeah. Going back to Ashley Barnes, you say Crouchy said...
Both of them. He particularly said...
I was with him at Brighton. Fans didn't like him.
Really?
I was playing, but mate, I thought he was brilliant.
Two players.
Work rate, holding up the ball, getting stuck in and finishing. Mate, he'd always pop up and score goals.
Yeah.
Like, he was good.
Yeah.
He let himself down occasionally, like sending offs and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he tripped the lino up or something like that. Not the lino, the ref. I think he tripped the ref up. The ref gave him a yellow card. Went in front off, so he tripped him up. That's absolute classic. I'm just laughing, but the manager...
I need to see this. It'll be on YouTube.
Hey, I'm sure it will be. Pretty sure it was. Give him a yellow card, run off, so he tripped him up.
What you do with it?
But he was good, mate. That's what I mean. That's why it's interesting to know, like, people like Chris Wood, I think he is underrated, but Crouch was saying that about him, like, fans.
Yeah.
And I know, even my mate Luke, who was out of us Saturday, he didn't really rate Ashley that well. I thought he was great, mate. Brilliant,
Do you know what? It's just funny, right? Because the game's gone very data-driven, isn't it? But actually, if I'm gonna sign a player of a manager, and I know he's at your club, and I know I trust your opinion because we've I'm like, I'd ask you, and that is invaluable to me. There's so many. It might be a player that doesn't show up on the statistics and data, but if like Crouchy sent that to me, that's how Harry Redknapp used to do a lot of it. It's where you to go and put a lot of the hard yards in watching players, but a lot of it was your network of people.
It's always that.
You've got good people around you who can
direct you in the right way.
And players know players.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? Players. I
always talk to, like, even my role with the loans. Like, I'll always go and get a second opinion from the under-21 manager, Mark Robson.
Yeah.
Because and Gerard Penderville.
Yeah.
And obviously Steve Potts.
Yeah.
And they will give you an overview about the player that you're thinking, will he play? Well, what level can he play? Can he play League One, League Two, Championship? What do you think is going to be good for his progression?
Yeah.
You go and ask those questions, and then they'll give you positive feedback, not positive, but honest feedback.
Yeah.
On because I have my data, and I'll use the data with our data analysis specialist,
right?
And he'll tell us, okay, and then also we're in we're in AI, the AI era now, and AI will tell you exactly what is what. But what AI won't tell you is the spirit of the player.
Yeah.
When is he up for that character of the player? And sometimes those elements, that human element, that AI is not going to pick that up. Data ain't going to pick that up. You'd look at a player and you think, wow, not sure about him, but all his stats are added up to unbelievable stats. He does everything it says on the tin. But really and truly, you put him from that club into another club, it's not going to work because his spirit's not there. He doesn't want to be there. So there's a load of other things you have to bring in.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say with the head of recruitment, can't just go on data and stats. It's got to be the human element.
Yeah. Was it Brighton? I think Tony Bloom went a lot on data.
Yeah, Brighton and Brentford were sort of like trailblazers for it. But most clubs do it, but it's like an art to it. And what apparently this is how it is. Why are they so good at it, identifying players and getting bargains? It's because they build up the data, and they have a certain small team that do it. And it's all right getting data, is how do you decipher it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I still think there's a real place in football for eyes, good trusted eyes on players, and also instinct and gut intuition on a player. Yeah. Sometimes I just look at a player and I don't know why I'm just like, I just don't think you'll be for me. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
You know?
We talk about... It's like the attitude of the way they react to things that don't go their way. I think that's what I notice more.
Yeah. I remember
good reactions after things, and
you know, it's like especially
mistakes and stuff.
Especially at Chelsea, when I saw certain it'd be like we'd sign. Obviously, Chelsea are signing top players wherever they are. They're a top player, whether they come from Portugal or Spain and all that. And I'd always have this thing where after 3 or 4 games, I'd be like, no, it's not going to work for them. Do you know what I mean? It'll be something. It'll be like a reaction to losing the ball, or like, you know, a moaning or something like. And you're usually more right than wrong. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I tell you, I noticed that with Chelsea, Kesman.
Yeah.
Because him and Mourinho,
I got shipped out because of him.
Him and Mourinho went at it a few times.
Yeah.
And I think then they just had a thing after that. Yeah. Mourinho would always dig him out.
Yeah,
they almost had a proper Barney in the change room, didn't they?
Yeah, he was Spike. He's an agent now, and I remember it obviously didn't work for him, did it? But
no.
But yeah, I think the character that he was confrontational.
Yeah.
You had to be like, you could argue with Jose, but you had to know when to do it and when not to do it. Yeah. That's a fair point.
We're talking about that's a striker. We'll talk about Chris Wood. So Chris Wood's unbelievable. European. So now, when you look at Nuno Espirito, really and truly, that is the position that Nottingham Forest for me should be in Manchester United's position right now. They should be vice versa right now. Manchester United should be in the European qualifying for Europe right now in that position to threatening.
Yeah.
But Nuno is doing this. It's Portuguese, Nuno.
Yeah.
So the other Portuguese lad is doing better than him at the moment.
Yeah, I know.
Amorim must be looking and thinking, "What? I'm at Man United. He's at Nottingham Forest. No disrespect to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest are a massive club. We know that history-wise. But Manchester United must be looking at them thinking, that is our place.
Yeah.
Like, how...
Forest must be on a massive confidence.
Yeah. It was rocking at the weekend. Rocking.
So you've got Chris Woods, and this is the whole point of having a striker. Chris Woods knocking in hat-tricks.
Yeah.
And Man United are looking at themselves and thinking, we ain't got a striker. How mad is that?
Yeah,
I just don't get what's going on. It's like I'm in an alternate universe right now. It's mad.
It is mad. It is mad.
Look, fair play to Nuno and what he's doing with that team.
Yeah.
But
can they do it, Coley?
I think they can.
Yeah,
mate. The confidence can't. When you was at the game,
I think people believe they can now. Because they've been going definitely.
Yeah, that result.
We're past the Christmas period now.
Yeah. We're February.
Yeah. So now it's all about maintaining.
Yeah. And by the way, Danilo was back. Danilo was back fit, and he's a player for them.
He's a player.
There's an extra little cog in the wheel. I don't know whether they'll bring anyone in before the chairman's a bit mad. He couldn't stop signing players, did he? He thought he was in Costco's when he first took the job.
He's buying on wholesale.
No, but you go to Costco's, you go, I'm just going for that, and you end up coming out of a jet ski. He's like,
my missus come out of an olive tree the other day, actually. Yeah.
Cash and carry. It's a cash and carry.
He's toned it down, isn't he? Toned it down now.
It's buy by the bulk.
Anyway,
I'm like that on TikTok, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I go on TikTok just to buy like some shower gels and that, because you get the little bundles. Then I end up buying like.
About this. What's this? Have
you not been on TikTok Shop?
No.
Core blind. Listen out.
Deals,
mate. Deals on wheels, bruv.
You know about this.
Of course I know. Of course you do. Mate, you need to get on TikTok Shop, mate. Yeah. Unbelievable piece of software. Yeah,
Jeez,
go on
I'll
there.
just go to the shop. I don't get these people.
Like, buy the bolt. Listen, the other day, I've got 60 toilet rolls turned up outside my house. It's up to there. I was like, wow, that's brilliant. I don't have to worry about toilet rolls for the rest of the year.
That gives me flashbacks about COVID. I don't ever see big toilet rolls. Anyway, we've done David Moyes breathing back into like Spurs. Here we go. What do we say?
What do we say about Spurs?
Spurs.
They won 2-0.
Tomori, Mark Gay, and Tell have been. Spurs have been turned down apparently.
Well, I think. Yeah. Look.
You
First and foremost, let's get into the game with Spurs.
Yeah.
So
yes,
they won. They won 2-0, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think that's a relief for Ange. Ange needs a little day. Needs a day off.
He looked relieved. By the way, I'm not really one for stats, but I watched the game and Spurs' expected goals was 0.75.
Oh, blood.
And Brentford's was 2 point something. So Spurs to win 2-0, it was a smash and grab.
Yeah.
It was a smash and grab. But sometimes you just need that. You know when you ain't played as well as you can do and you win a game, it feels like you're in the dressing room and you go with the lads, whoa. It's almost like we're bandits here. We've done them. But they was very, very... Ange looked very relieved, looked like a manager.
He needed it.
And now they got a massive game this week in the semi-final. I think this is make and break for Ange. I think if he gets them to the final, it buys him another 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
It's just like, he's not had no respite, mate.
Yeah.
It's been one thing after the other.
He looks like he's just done, doesn't he?
Yeah.
There's
I'm happy for
a clip of him arguing with the fans afterwards.
I know. We've got that. We've got to send a bit of information to play devil's advocate with Levy because we give him a bit of stick last.
Yeah.
They spent 300 million on players. A list of them. Some of them are hit. Some of them are miss. And then
300 million. How long? What's the?
I think it's under the Ange era.
Under the Ange era.
But a lot of them, but still, a lot of them will be on low wages in comparison to the top boys. A lot of them, like Archie Graves, going to be a very good young player. Bergvall, they look like two young players. I still think the problem lands with him. I know there's been protests at Tottenham with fans and everyone because fans want to see results on the pitch. You know, there's only so many times you go to the megastore.
It's a megastore or the F1 go-karting.
Yeah, and so they know that these players will eventually, if Archie Gray and Bergvall become top players, they're going to end up being bought by Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Yeah,
you know, the big boys. You know what I mean? So I think
he's not going anywhere, Levy, though, is he?
Levy's not going nowhere. No, he's
exactly.
He basically owns the club.
That's what I mean. Like when we've talked about it before, is it time? He's never going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. So they've got to accept.
Never going anywhere. Is
and
so it's just like.
Yeah. The interesting thing now is like back in the day, right, when ticket prices were a big, massive bulk of. If you're selling 40,000 tickets, like Spurs would have been for years and years at White Hart Lane, and all of a sudden you lose the fans and only 20,000 turn up. That was a massive lot of your revenue. Now the match day revenue, if your hardcore fans don't turn up, if they'll all the Spurs fans turn up and go, no, we're not having this no more. I'm not going to watch my team. I'm going to because of this. They'll sell them to tourists. So it's the strength of the fans is actually diminishing. That's why. You know, I think that's the frustration. They feel powerless to this. They want Tottenham to be at the top.
Yeah.
But they ain't spending the money to do it.
Well, Levy will say they are spending the money, but the problem is it's the recruitment.
Yeah. You think so? I think
it's recruitment. And I'm not sure how it works at Spurs, but where does the buck stop?
You not think that
if I was the manager and I say to Levy, I said, Levy, Dan, I need players. I need this position. Yeah. I've identified the players I want, whether they're gettable or not. Am I in the position to get them?
Yeah.
Daniel comes back and says, yeah, you are. Go and get them. Then bingo.
Yeah.
But if he goes and says, we can't afford him, but he's an alternative.
Yeah.
It's still down to me to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So the buck stops with the gaffer or the head of recruitment. And those two supposed to be working together, the head of recruitment and the gaffer.
Do you think with the players they've got, though, a different manager could make them a lot better?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I think Andrew, I like the way he plays, but I think when he's had his whole back four injured for 3 months, I don't think he just made a decision not to adjust and stick to principles, and I think that was a wrong decision because they haven't won any games. Would they have won more games if they'd have gone a little bit more right and banked in? I think they probably would have done. Then they would have come out of this where they are now, where all they're coming back, and then you can revert back to your type. So I think
self-inflicted injuries.
Yeah. You know, rushing players back, maybe they weren't ready. So yeah, I do. But I mean, I look at all of this and I think to myself, I try and simplify the game in my mind. If you give me 300 million, right, and said to any Premier League team, you can spend it. No one else. Everyone can have an opinion, but I'm going to make the decision on the players. I honestly think I'd do better. I don't know whether that's like me being like...
I'll tell you what though, mate, it don't get you a lot these days. It don't get you a lot these days, is it?
Yeah, it's true, but I still think... Do you know what I mean? I still think I could go and buy 10 players with 300 million, 30 million a player, and I think I could do... But I don't know whether I'm being like just ignorant or something.
Younger, I think right now you won't buy fully established players. You buy younger players, or you have to go abroad. You know, you'll have to go abroad, and then then the financial fair play. Because remember, you got to deal with financial fair play. You got to deal with all the players' wages.
I could come unstuck with the inland revenue.
That's the problem we've got, Holly. So there's this balance in that behind the scenes where sometimes you have to just take what you're given and try. Yeah. But that's the whole point of being a coach, a good coach at that. You've got to motivate your team. You got to be improve him, and you got to make him fit into your team. So there's loads of variables that go with it. Yeah. It's not just about going to buy the player and putting him into there and it's part of the jigsaw and it works straight away.
You got to be, if you're a coach or a manager, you got to be able to get players to be able to do what you want them to do. It goes back to when I was at Brighton.
Yeah,
mate, the players weren't great. Do you know what I mean? I was going down Championship, but Gus Poyet is a manager and a coach.
Yeah,
talking people through the game.
Yeah,
the way he had them playing football, we played some really good football.
Yeah.
And the coaching of him was really, really good.
Yeah,
the setup, you know,
believed in it.
You know, telling the centre midfielder where he's going to go, the options he's got, how the other team plays, and his detail was really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, there's some of these managers not go into enough detail with players if they need it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe it's the detail problem. But I think going back to like what you said, I think you said about like, is the manager getting the players he wants? I remember a story, and I might be wrong. Alex Ferguson, when he's signing Cantona, he was like, might be wrong, so people might have to search this up, but he was on the phone to Leeds chairman. The director of football, Man United's chairman, was with Fergie, apparently, on the phone to Leeds about signing someone else. And Fergie just gone, ask him if Cantona's available. You know what I mean? And he's gone, well, he's not available. I can't remember what the player was. He said, what about Eric Cantona? And then all of a sudden, he might be available. And then, so, like, that was just his instincts. You know what I mean? He wasn't even... Like, mate, and that changed the face of football.
Yeah.
So I think... Do you know what I mean? It changed for Manchester United. That was the catalyst for the success they had. That one last piece of the jigsaw, and I still think there's a room for that in the game where managers, or maybe it's just my romantic mind of how football should be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what I mean.
Talking about romantic football, could this be a match made in heaven for Rashford? Ooh. Aston Villa. From Manchester United to Aston Villa. Amorim, obviously.
Yeah.
He's got no striker. That's the way he's picturing it. So Rashford's left Manchester United to go to Aston Villa, who are a Champions League team, by the way.
Yeah.
So could this be a match made in heaven? Is this the move that Rashford needs to get to the next level of his career? Is this the new challenge he was talking about? Because for me, you don't leave Man United, but he might be a special case where he goes and gets some goals into his domain. He might be able to turn this around, his career around, and it might work for him. Yeah,
I thought the whole thing, that we don't know Marcus, but I thought the whole thing about him, we talk about Barcelona and Milan's of this world, was him needing to get out of Manchester because he's he's been the icon for that club.
Yep.
Manchester lad. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking, get away from there. So I'm thinking, he ain't gone that far. He's only. It's like he can still be staying. He's still be staying at home. Yeah, he'll still be 100%. He'll be still be at home. And I'm like, I don't know if it's like just a. I don't know if it's just that's his only option. Do you know what I mean? It's not a bad option. And Villa, a great club, they're going well. He has to make it. He has to make it work.
Yeah.
And he has to sit down, and have a look at himself in the mirror, and go, "This is me.
Yeah.
This is not Manchester United's fault, or the owner, or the chairman, or the various managers I played with. I've got to do the right thing. I've got to live right. I've got to train right. I've got to be ready to give my performance to my teammates and my club." And listen, it's buzzing at the moment, Villa, so it's a good time to be there.
I kind of don't want to be too critical of him just because I don't really know.
No.
You've obviously got what the manager said about him.
Yeah.
But you like to think anyone at Villa is going to put his arm around him.
Yeah.
Give him a bit of confidence.
Coax him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And coach him. And he's got to listen.
Yeah, he's
I'm
got
not
to
saying
listen.
he isn't listening, but if someone's talking to him, like the manager, you know, like I was hoping he was going to turn it round for Man United, to be honest. I was hoping the manager would be able to talk the sense into him that he thinks he needs, but you know, you don't know everything.
No.
But I'm hoping that, like you said, he can look in the mirror if something ain't right and put it right. If not, someone at Villa has really got to put their arm round him and get the best out of him.
Yeah.
I get you there, but it's a funny one with this Rashford scenario because it's. I don't think anybody can talk about this with full confidence. The reason I say that, I don't think anyone is in Rashford's shoes.
Yeah.
Look, when you talk about Marcus Rashford and what he's done so far, footballing wise, he's achieved quite a lot. With Manchester United. I know it's
and
England as well.
Big player for England.
We've got to respect him for that part. Right, and then what he's done, I know,
he's got loads to give.
But then all of a sudden, as well, he went in to a different domain when he was getting involved with government business.
Yeah,
and everyone was saying, "Just focus on football." Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know you love the kids and that, and you're trying to help school meals.
Yeah,
we get it, but he even got criticised for doing that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now
you get criticised for everything.
His PR, his PR right now, and his demeanour and who he is, his level of success in that field, and just being Man United, your stardom's unbelievable, right? Then he gets paid, but signs a new contract. He's on $375,000 a week.
Yeah.
Now, that's world class Mbappe level.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Wouldn't your head go a little bit with them type of figures when you're turning in 1.5 million a year, a month?
Someone,
absolutely.
So who can guide Rashford being on that type of dough? Yeah, and still being when he got that, it was 25, 26.
Yeah,
still having Man United that badge on your back because you are the flag bearer, you are the pin-up boy for this football club. We've made you the main man.
Yeah.
Was he even capable of flying that flag?
Yeah.
We don't know because we don't know what goes on in his head.
Yeah.
It might be a load of pressure on him and he's thinking, blimey, mate. And this is not even the best Man United team I'm playing in. And I've got to fly the flag as well. And I've got to be more or less the captain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I'm getting paid the most here. There's loads of other things that go into it. Then obviously the Jadon Sancho scenario coming, the Pogba. Remember he was around the Pogba era, and he probably got called a bad boy from back then. So he was.
I'm gonna throw something.
It's so weird for him to be that man that everyone's expecting him to be, and maybe he's not actually ready to be that man that everyone's expecting. He just wanted to not be the captain, but be a part of the direction the club wanted to go in.
I'll throw something at you though. Right, so you talk about the Sancho situation, Pogba situations, but a lot of players who sort of went to Man United and didn't quite. Pogba went back, obviously, and have been tarred with their mindset. But when Cristiano come back, now one thing I know about Cristiano is he is like the consummate, almost bordering on psychopathic,
elite,
dedication to his craft. Won't even have a sugar, goes to bed everything, recovery.
He's addicted to it.
Addicted to football and scoring goals, right? So he must have looked at some point. Marcus Rashford in his moment must have looked at some of the other players who weren't living right, and then looked at him and gone, like, where do I go? You know what I mean? I mean, I just think of myself as an impressionable young person, young football club. Someone like Cristiano Ronaldo would have come into the club and showed me the way. Do you know what I mean? I think I'd have been professional. Do you know what I mean? Instead I met Bridgie.
No, you led me astray, actually.
That's true.
That's my first night out in London. He dragged me out.
But you know what, right? I could understand it because when I got to
you know what I mean? That's what I mean. If someone at Villa can get him to think that way and coach him and get him, because he's got the ability to just
Cristiano's shown him the path.
Yeah.
Is he capable of walking in? Listen, he'll never.
I hope he turns a corner.
I want him to be. I want him to be
close to it. We don't have to walk in the same steps. But you see the examples of, I can try that. Maybe that'll work for me. But you don't take everything off Cristiano. But he's the elite professional, so you'd think that's the way I've got to be. That's the way I've got to live my life. He comes in at 6 a.m. every morning. He's the ultimate professional. He's there before everybody else. I want to be like that guy. Yeah. It's up to the kids to take that risk. He doesn't have to tell you. You just have to look at him.
Yeah.
He's an example, a walking and breathing example of how to be.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to take that kind of leadership, then that's on you, isn't it? For me.
Yeah.
Are we going to go through? Are we going to go through the other three?
Ward-Prowse.
Back to West Ham.
I think that's good.
I think it's good.
I think it's strange they let him go, to be honest.
Yeah. Ain't that funny, Bridgie, when you get players like... He's done well at West Ham.
He's talking of England and everything.
Back in with England, in the England fold.
Banging free kicks.
Remember, we was banging his drum, wasn't it? Because we were thinking he was going to get back in that England side.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden a new manager comes in, don't like you, off you go to Nottingham Forest. He's not for Nuno, clearly.
Well, no, Nottingham Forest are flying.
Yeah.
There's no space for him.
Yeah, he's been blocked like that. Change winning. Fair enough.
Can't change it.
But it makes sense. And I think he's going to be a massive success. He's a West Ham player.
Graham Potter's going to get the best out of him, I think. So I think it's a no-brainer.
He was playing so well there, I thought.
Yeah.
What's he thought of down in Southampton? Like,
I loved
hero.
him, yeah. A lot of players loved him. You know,
fans love him.
Great as set piece. He worked hard, up and down. I think everyone's always liked him.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's probably not the.
He's not explosive, is he?
Just does well at everything.
But he's not.
Isn't he?
We go on data, Bridgie. He's like one of the highest runners, like kilometre-wise.
Yeah.
Every game in the West Ham team he was for, and I was so baffled why he was let go. And
mate, you get a free kick round the box, mate.
You want him on it, or a corner kick, because you got corners. You got Souček.
Some corners of him as well. Yeah.
You got Souček, that's a great header of the ball. You got a few boys that can head the ball.
Yeah.
Like
I know Saints fans are gutted when he
Kilman.
Yeah.
So they're gonna. I think he's welcome back into the West Ham fold, especially now when you look at it. Nottingham Forest are flying. We get why you're not using him.
Yeah.
Come back home and let's get cracking again.
Let's get cracking. Enjoy yourself. Just looking at, we covered Mark Gay. Hammers, we've done that. I mean, last one, we do Tomori coming back. I mean, it's hard for us.
Palace rejects 70 million.
You know what? I'm surprised they've done that, Geese. I'm really surprised that they've rejected that type of money, because
for Mark Gay,
that's a lot of money for a centre half, Bridgie. 70 mil.
It's a lot of money, but I was saying to you earlier, to get players is hard. I think.
Yeah.
It ain't easy.
At this point, this point in the window, though, as well, though. Remember that? Like, it is January, and you're going in quite late.
Yeah.
To get your prized asset is going to take a lot of money but that might be make or break my season.
They always say you're paying a lot more in January, don't they?
So I'd say my season's probably worth 140 million. Do you know what I mean? So let's double it. Then you can have him.
Yeah.
You know? So when you're taking a player at this point of the season, teams can't come in with low prices. It's got to be double, at least, you know.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Do you ever move in January? In a late on a window? I've never done it late on a window.
Was I late? I went to City. I don't think it was late, though.
No, it was like last minute.
No, it wasn't last
Crouchy's interesting to talk about because he's had a few little... He was always linked or... Because think about it, right? Most teams up and down the leagues, if you're a centre forward or a centre half, little number 10s never move. Because you're part of... You're in the
system.
Like, it'll be people sitting there going, we can't score goals. What centre forwards are available?
Yeah.
He's available, and they try and get a deal done.
Or we can't defend.
We can't defend.
I need someone solid.
It's never like
never a goalkeeper.
No,
or maybe sometimes it is actually.
Yeah, but
if there's a big injury,
there's always emergency loans open for that. So that's but it's always a strike. So the big man's like he was a regular in January, like up to the end of the window, like could go there.
Yeah.
But no, you never had the little.
I did. Yeah. West Brom.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go in January, then it got blocked. I was up there, done my whole medical.
Oh really?
Done my medical.
Medical.
I had the Liverpool one, and then I had the Arsenal one. I had January, and then
centre forwards.
And then the West Brom one came in. Tony Pulis, that was the one. I went up there, done my whole medical. I was on the desk like this, waiting for the phone call to say, "Yep, sign it off."
Yeah.
Me and Pulis was like this. He was over there. I was here, and then he got the phone call, and I was like that. And he goes like that. It's like deal or no deal. If you've ever seen Deal or No Deal, it was exactly like that. And I saw his face, and he's gone, "Sorry, Cole, it's bad news." I was like, "What do you mean?" Okay. I'm like, it's dark outside. And I think he goes, "You're going to have to go home." Oh, mate. I was like, Lord. Then I was like, you hold on there. I got up, gone to the kitchen in West Brom training ground, by the way. The amount of lyrics that we was hearing in the canteen.
Really?
Right?
Was you fuming?
I was fuming. Sam Allardyce was on the phone.
Really?
I even spoke to the boss, David Sullivan.
Really?
What are you not doing to me? Like, I don't understand. I said, "Do you know what, Gaffer? I'm never going to play for you again." How about that? Blah, 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 blah. Mate, I was playing the next week. I was playing the next week anyways. But it was just, it was a weird one. And I had to come back, and you got to go back because you thought it was going to happen. And then now you got to readjust because you've kind of like detached yourself away from it. Then all of a sudden you got to come back into the fold. And you're like, you got to swallow your pride. Yeah. And you got to just go again and just be professional as possible. And fair play to me. I just saw the rest of the season out. And I had to sort myself at the end of the season, which was a little bit of a letdown because I thought I got a new contract. Yeah. You know what I mean? At the club, just because I didn't, but it didn't work out that way, and I had to try and sort myself out at the end. But yeah, it's a January window is a hard time for anybody to adjust.
But you think they get it sorted though? Things that happen on the last day, you just think.
Everyone thinks it's professional and it's all done. This is phone calls being made now. There'll be chairman. They'll be buzzing off it. They're having a great time. Championship manager.
Desperate, Bridgie. Yeah. The reason why is just the time of desperateness. Yeah. It's not even a word. I just made it up. Yeah. No, people are desperate.
Desperation in the nation.
Desperation in the nation. You know what I mean? Like people just want to get the deal done. Oh, I didn't. That fell through. Who else is next? Yeah. But you don't really want to be that player. Because you're coming in. You might just be a polyfiller for someone else until they get fit again and then you're out. You know, so you got to make sure you cover yourself and make the right decisions at this time of period.
Yeah, I think that's enough, boys, for today. Lovely to see you. You've been listening to The Dressing Room with Our Arabiya News. Thanks for listening.
Tokyo, the world's most populous metropolitan area with 35 million people and one of the most expensive cities, Greater Tokyo. For its crowded places and high cost of living, what makes Tokyo worth a visit? The city is teeming with history, culture, and sights. One of the most popular is the Hachiko statue, a tribute to the dog loyal to his master. Hachiko, who died of a heart infection in 1935, is regarded a national celebrity and has a bronze statue of him outside Shibuya Station in his honor. A lesser-known Disneyland also lies in Tokyo. It first opened in 1983 and would see over 13 million visitors per year, making it the third most popular theme park in the world. Also find the animation studio of Studio Ghibli Inc., often referred to as the Japanese Disney. The studio's Oscar-winning feature Spirited Away is the highest-grossing film in Japanese history. Another frequently visited site is the Imperial Palace. The palace became the official imperial residence in 1869. It remains the main residence of Japanese Emperor Akihito. For historic Shinto sites, most recommended is the Meiji Shrine in Shibuya. Shinto is Japan's dominant religion. It means the worship of the deities of heaven and earth. The Meiji Shrine is the most highly regarded of all and is an immaculate example of Japan's impressive architecture. Sporting events are also popular in Japan. The Tokyo Dome is a 55,000-seater all-weather multi-purpose home of Japan's most famous team, the Tokyo Tomiuri Giants. All over the world, Japanese food is very popular. Japanese fare is favored by many because of their incredible cooking and attention to precision and preparation. The place keeps their menu simple and delicious and is visited again and again because of its classic tonkatsu, cutlets of tender breaded pork slow-cooked to perfection. When it comes to shopping, many visit Tokyo for its haven of electronics and gadgets. For Japanese fashion, visit the hip, edgier Harajuku district. Here, you'll bump into younger individuals cosplaying or adults dressed in very clean minimalist styles.
From the White House to Gaza, Kyiv to Beijing, elections, economics and the environment compete with conflicts and other complex issues for our attention. In an age of fake news, deep fake and artificial intelligence,
they've got to have a vote and a say.
It's important to look beyond the loudest voice to understand the truth. From newsmakers to groundbreakers,
My campaign is going very well.
Presidents, prime ministers, princes and peacemakers, and cultural tastemakers.
As Arabs, as Middle Eastern, we're too emotional.
Join me on the Riz Khan Show for empowering conversation.
Hello and welcome to Global News Today, bringing you exclusive interviews with leading experts every weekday here on Arabiya News. I'm Tom Burges Watson, and in today's special programme, we take a look back at some of the best interviews during the last couple of days. Meanwhile, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, has hit back after a reporter pressed her on President Donald Trump's plans to occupy the Gaza Strip. He also asked if this plan aligned with the America First policies that he spelt out during his re-election campaign. Well, Leavitt swiftly defended President Trump's proposal for the US to own Gaza in the Middle East, but pushed back at journalists who questioned details of the plan. She called it an out-of-the-box idea that would meet the president's goal of lasting peace.
I would reject the premise of your question that this forces the United States to be entangled in conflicts abroad. The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea. That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region. And as I said in my opening remarks, we've had the same people pushing the same solutions to this problem for decades. And it's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
The White House press secretary speaking there. Well, for more analysis, we can speak to Mercedes Schlapp, former senior White House advisor for strategic communications under President Donald Trump during his first term. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I should add, you also worked on the Trump 2020 re-election campaign as a senior advisor. This idea that President Trump put out on Tuesday night with regards to Gaza has created a frenzy of headlines right across the world, lots of discussion. How carefully considered do you think this idea really was?
Look, knowing how President Trump thinks, he is one who exchanges a lot of ideas with his advisors and in probably saying, OK, we know Benjamin Netanyahu is coming, the prime minister of Israel. We know at this point that this ceasefire is in a very fragile state. We need to get it to a point where the ceasefire can really stick. And we need to ensure that the Arab nations also play a role in ensuring that that figuring out what the future solutions are for Gaza. As we know, it's been significantly demolished and bombed during this period of time. It's been under the control of the terrorist Hamas, who obviously have oppressed their own Palestinian people and have targeted the Israeli citizens. And so I think for President Trump, he's big into the shock and awe, and he wants to put it out there to be like, well, how are we going to rebuild this? How is this going to go? And of course, it causes huge fury, whether it be from the Democrat Party, from the media, obviously from other global partners, in trying to decipher what President Trump really is trying to accomplish here. And I think the goal is to ensure that the Arab nations know that they have a role to play in rebuilding Gaza. They have a role to play, as we know, Egypt and Jordan, in taking in Palestinian refugees and figuring out a path forward where you don't allow these terrorists like Hamas to be in charge of that region.
Yeah, but countries like Egypt and Jordan that have already got large numbers of Palestinian refugees dating back to 1948 when the State of Israel was established, you know, why should they have to carry the burden? That's the question they're asking. And if President Trump wanted them...
And why should, you know, any of these countries carry the burden?
Right, why can't they stay in Gaza, which is where they've lived for generations, where their ancestors are buried?
Right, but you have to rebuild that infrastructure in Gaza. You have to make sure, as you know, the unemployment rate amongst Palestinian youth is skyrocketing. It's figuring out how can you rebuild it to a point that it is an ability of a livable conditions in that area. So it does raise a lot of these questions. And the question is, who will carry the burden? How is it going to be handled? Is it something that's going to be a multinational approach? Is it something like the Marshall Plan? These are all things that should be discussed at this point in time. And it's why you've seen President Trump talk about this out of the box thinking. Look, it was President Trump who brought the Abraham Accords during a period of time where there was peace in the Middle East and where they were trying to isolate Iran, because, as we know, has been sponsoring terrorism with Hamas and Hezbollah for quite some time in the Middle East region.
But it does seem, doesn't it, when we've heard, you know, Marco Rubio saying, you know, the US Secretary of State, the new US Secretary of State, I'm saying that for the benefit of our viewers because he's only been in office for a couple of weeks. He's been saying something quite different. You know, it sounds like this is a temporary solution. You know, people can go and live in another country and then come back to a reconstructed Gaza. I mean, it makes us in the outside of Washington think this is all a little bit improvised and people are sort of feeling their way in the dark, putting out ideas that haven't really been carefully thought through.
Well, I think the way President Trump works is that when he's talking to his different advisors, they are coming up with different types of ideas. From that, then you have to go from the idea to the actual planning of it. Obviously, there's so many components to this. You saw Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Rand Paul, two what I would call, I would say Lindsey Graham being hawkish, Rand Paul being a little more isolationist, basically not happy with President Trump and his comments on Gaza, saying, wait a second here, let's not move too quickly. It's got to be about America first. What does this all mean? But bringing it into the discussion, I think, is critical, because the reality is, what is it going to take to rebuild Gaza? How are we going to ensure that the ceasefire sticks? How can we ensure that, as they've talked about, that this could be a 10, I would say 15, 20-year process of rebuilding, if that, and who's going to be involved in the rebuilding process, right? These were conversations that were had back after World War II with the Marshall Plan and rebuilding Europe. What is this approach going to take? And I think Donald Trump is one, and we saw this in the case of Greenland, in the case of Panama Canal, where he's putting out an idea. It might be something that will cause wait a second, this is not how business is usually done in the world or in America. And then all of a sudden is figuring out, how do you get to a point where people, it raises awareness to the situation at hand. You take the case of Greenland, for example, where President Trump has raised the issue of national security and what it means to be able to invest in that region. Or the Panama Canal, where you've seen the Chinese, basically investing infrastructure with their own initiatives. And now the Panamanian president, after Secretary Marco Rubio visited the region, decided, you know what, we're gonna not renew these ties with the Chinese government in their Belt Road Initiative. And so this is where you're going to see some transformational changes from a diplomatic effort coming out of the United States. And so I think with the Gaza question, it really, I think, woke people up to say, well, what are we going to do in the region? What does this mean? How do we establish an area that could be a place that could, for people to go back to their country if they want to?
Well, he's certainly got us talking about it, so indeed it's having the desired effect if that's the strategy. I just want to ask you about your time working in the White House as a strategic comms advisor to President Trump during his first time. I mean, did you sometimes find yourself in a situation where President Trump had gone off script and had taken everyone, including you, by surprise, and you perhaps had to take him to one side and have a little bit of a chat with him to find out what's going on?
Well, I think the key is that one thing with President Trump is that when you were finished working, and it was obviously late nights, early mornings, and then he would put out a tweet at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Back then it was Twitter, now it's X. You really would wake up the next morning, we'd all huddle in the press office and be like, okay, how are we going to answer this? Like, we weren't maybe necessarily like, it would be one of those where we'd be like, we need to get in touch with the president to get his thinking behind a particular tweet or a particular post. And I think it's important to understand, like, he is the communicator in chief. He is the one driving the agenda. And I think this is happening even more so now in the second administration. Look, one thing I admired about President Trump is that we would all go into the Oval Office. It was cabinet members to staffers involved there, senior advisors. He would ask us all what were our opinions on a particular topic. And, there were times where he would maybe disagree with a cabinet member, but would agree with something I would say, or disagree with me and agree with the cabinet member. This is his style of management. He wants to get as much input as possible. He wants people to kind of fight it out. And I say fight it out in the friendliest, most respectful of terms, where there would be very constructive debates within the Oval Office. And then from there, he would be the ultimate decision maker. And so I felt that we were very much listened to as staffers. I might disagree with him on how he might have handled one tweet or another tweet, but for me, it was a matter of the president being able to deliver his message, and our goal, obviously, to support the president's agenda. And yes, of course, I would be open to advising him if I felt like this is what we're going to get out of this particular policy decision, or these are the pitfalls and these are the advantages. And that's my job as an advisor, which is to basically help the president understand where the pitfalls are, where the advantages are, and how to best communicate that message.
Were there ever times where you lost your temper or lost patience and perhaps expressed it to him? And I wonder how he responds in a situation like that.
No, I've got 5 children. So in my household, you learn what it is to negotiate. You learn how to be a deal maker. You try never to lose your patience, although I've lost it plenty of times. And, no, I felt with President Trump, I didn't really ever felt I lost my patience with him. I actually loved working with him. He was my favorite boss. I learned so much from working at the White House. I was very humbled and honored to be part of his White House team. And I always just felt very much listened to. And he might not agree with me 100%, but that's, my job as a senior advisor is to give the best advice to the President of the United States, and he will make the ultimate decision, and respect him in the process.
Yeah, you worked in the administration of George W. Bush as well, I understand. Right. And one of the things you're quoted as having said is the big difference between working with President Trump and working with President George W. Bush was the late-night tweets, as you mentioned there. I'm just wondering, you know, of course, this is a new administration from the one that you worked in a few years ago. And I'm just wondering whether you think, looking at it from the outside in, whether President Trump has got the right people in his inner sanctum to give him those well-considered opinions that you say you and the people were giving him in the first term. Do you think he's got the team right?
Yeah, I would say one of the lessons he learned was that staffing was critical for his success. I think he picked certain chiefs of staffs at the beginning of his first term that really didn't understand how Donald Trump functioned and really tried to say, well, wait a second, he's not making the right decision, so I, as chief of staff, should be making the right decision. And wait a second, you're chief of staff. You're not the elected official. The American people elected President Trump. They didn't elect the chief of staff. He also picked some cabinet members the first term where obviously they were more concerned about their own agenda than pushing the president's agenda. And I think that President Trump knew at this point he was not going to make that same mistake again. And I think that's why he's put critical people, very, I would say, first of all, strong communicators, people who understand policy. And obviously his inner circle, some of the staffers like Dan Scavino and Stephen Miller, two very good friends of mine, in that inner circle, people have been with President Trump. Susie Wiles has been with President Trump since the election, and really just, I think, a very smart leader and able to build a very strong team. And so I really like what I'm seeing so far. I like the fact that they're moving fast. I like the fact that they understand what it takes to be organized and get the work done from the executive branch. And then obviously they're, you know, and not only doing domestic policy, but also doing foreign policy, where you have our secretaries, the cabinet members traveling across the globe. I mean, you have Secretary Marco Rubio down in Latin America, an area that's been pretty much ignored by the Biden administration. You had special envoy for special missions, Rick Grinnell, who went down to Venezuela and negotiated the release of the 6 Americans in Venezuela. You know, you have the fact that you've got the special envoy for the Middle East going and working with Israel to get the ceasefire done. So I feel like it is running on all cylinders. It's functioning in a way that things are getting done. Obviously, I think one of the next big steps is going to be President Trump meeting with the Republican members of Congress to decide what the budget plan is going to look like, how they're going to build that out, because you've got the Senate trying to push 2 bills. You've got the House of Representatives trying to push one big, beautiful bill, as President Trump has called. And they're having that infighting right now of what can deliver quicker results in getting President Trump's mandate, America First mandate, funded and funded quickly.
Sure. Well, they've certainly hit the ground running. Just lastly, I mean, I want to ask you, again, casting your mind back some time, particularly to 2015, when it's reported, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but it's reported that, you know, you weren't perhaps a huge fan of President Trump, Donald Trump, as he was then, before he was president. What won you over? Because you did criticize him on 1 or 2 occasions, and then you became obviously someone who was very much part of the inner circle. And I just wondered what it was that made you sort of essentially throw your support behind him.
Well, as part of the media, you know, I hope my job is to criticize as many Republican politicians as I possibly can, and then also criticize Democrat politicians as well, right? It's our job to be critical. It's our job to be analytical. It's our job to say, how can you be a better candidate? And in essence, it was really I would say my husband, Matt Schlapp, chairman of the CPAC of American Conservative Union. We run the largest conservative summit across the globe. He had met with Donald Trump in 2015, and he was so impressed with him. And he basically said that Donald Trump, and predicted that Donald Trump would win the primary, that he was coming in with this very effective messaging to the working class, to the American people, and that there was something about him that was just different than any other politician that that my husband Matt had dealt with. Now, I had not met President Trump. It was actually we didn't endorse during the primary. I was highly critical of the different candidates in place. But as I got to know him, it was during the CPAC event. And as I got to really learn his message, and I saw one thing that I didn't see from other politicians, and that's that he listened to the American people. He was always asking questions. He was always trying to figure out, how can we make things better? He worked more as like an executive than he did as just a politician that simply talks your ear off and tells you what you should think or what you should believe. And so I would really love that. And then when I was given the opportunity, I got a phone call from Ivanka Trump to see if I would come join the team. Obviously, we joined in to help him get elected during the 2016 election, and then joined the team and got to work with him firsthand. I was very impressed with his management skills. I loved how he incorporated so many women into his administration and listened to us when we were basically asked, our opinion about one policy or the other, and how he was able to deliver so much during the first term, considering the fact that he had the FBI trying to take him out, and which I think caused a huge problem with the whole Russian hoax. And then following that, then you have the Democrats basically trying to put the man in jail after, impeaching him. It is just gross to see what the left has done to try to destroy Donald Trump. And yet you see a man who's victorious, a man who survived 2 assassination attempts, and a man who I think has really done so much to rebuild, and will do so much to rebuild America. Because as we know, we've had a president for the past 4.5 years that the media didn't even question his mental capabilities. And President Biden did barely anything during those 4 years to strengthen America. So I think it's great to see how President Trump has really grown in the job, and how he's now just executing and getting the work done, and knowing that there's limited time to do so.
Wow, we've got so much more I wanted to talk to you about, but I'm afraid we're out of time. Please do come and talk to us again. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Mercedes Schlapp, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Well, so far in this programme, we've heard global responses, but how have US lawmakers been reacting to President Trump's idea of a Gaza takeover? Well, the US Democratic Senator Chris Murphy called this proposal for a US takeover of Gaza a, quote, bad, sick joke, adding on X that President Trump had, quote, totally lost it. Well, not all Democrats rejected the possibility of a US presence in Gaza. Senator John Fetterman labelled President Trump's comments, quote, provocative, this in a statement to Politico. But he added, it's part of a conversation, and that's where we are. As for Republicans, the House Speaker Mike Johnson praised President Trump's remarks as, quote, a bold action in hopes of achieving lasting peace in Gaza. He added, quote, we are hopeful this brings much needed stability and security to the region. This in a posting on X. Well, for more US reaction, we can speak now to PJ Curley, a former US Undersecretary of State to President Barack Obama, who joins us now from Virginia. Thank you so much for joining us. Just tell us, what went through your mind when you heard this announcement by the president last night?
Well, Tom, in a word, it's insane. But the rule of thumb about Donald Trump is to take his words seriously, but not literally. It's totally impractical to conceive of how this could be accomplished, both to bring peace and stability to the region. It would do anything but it is insightful in that, the two people that are cheering from the sidelines as we speak are Benjamin Netanyahu and Itamar Ben-Gvir, because it just means that Donald Trump is not going to push Israel, towards taking any steps that will lead, that will create a path to a Palestinian state. His comments actually totally undermined the potential that there will be a Palestinian state or any movement towards a Palestinian state during the Trump administration.
President Trump says that everyone he's spoken to loves this idea. He clearly hasn't been speaking, has he, to any other leaders in the Middle East, bar perhaps Prime Minister Netanyahu? No. Obviously, the regional reaction has been swift
and categorically, negative. I mean, for example, where would these people go? I mean, I'm beginning to lose track of all of the territory that Donald Trump, wishes to acquire. Maybe he believes that we can move 2 million Palestinians to Greenland. There's room there. But as a practical matter, were he to try to force Palestinians to move into Egypt or move into Jordan, obviously, who would go with them? Hamas. And then, to his idea that the United States would put forces on the ground to stabilize situation, they would be under constant attack. Once you actually take one or two steps towards how would this work, you understand how impractical it would be.
Sounds like President Trump is rather counting on regional acquiescence. He's not going to get it, is he?
Well, I mean, in the past, he's made provocative statements in theory as the opening salvo, in a long negotiation. But as a practical matter, going back to his first term, he's had no relationship with the Palestinians. Everything he's done has been from Israel's perspective. So he, even before any kind of process towards a long-term solution to Gaza presents itself, he's in essence disqualified himself as a serious negotiator.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen examples of this brand new Trump administration perhaps not treating traditional allies with the greatest of respect. And, Canada, Greenland, Mexico, the United Kingdom, Germany sort of spring to mind. This is another example, isn't it? Because wouldn't you have thought that such an idea would have been discussed with allies here in the Middle East before being announced to the world media in the presence of the Israeli Prime Minister?
Well, again, Tom, if we go back to Trump's first term and all of his missives on what was then called Twitter, now called X, and now his missives on Truth Social, there always were two policies. One that Trump would put in an early morning tweet, and another which is the actual policy of the United States. And so I think we have here again, Trump throwing out a half-baked idea that he probably didn't even try to vet in any serious way. And again, he's tilting himself towards an Israeli perspective. Not that the United States is going to take over Gaza, but there are some serious people within Israel who do believe that Israel should be able to take territory from Gaza, territory from the West Bank, in an effort to increase the territory for Israel and decrease the possibility that there could ever be a Palestinian state. That is actually Benjamin Netanyahu's perspective. And again, Donald Trump just gave him a gift, with his non-serious comments, but comments that say that the Trump administration, is not looking to achieve any kind of breakthrough regarding a Palestinian state.
I mean, some people had this initial reaction when they heard President Trump speaking last night to say that this was all a brilliant, perhaps, negotiating strategy, put out this maximalist opening position, create a frenzy of debate, and get everyone focused on finding a solution. Others aren't so sure. They think perhaps we do need to take President Trump's words at face value. What's your take?
Well, maybe in one or two instances, you can do something outlandish, the old madman theory, if you will, that gets people's attention, and then you find a compromise in the middle. But the fact that Trump does this time after time after time, at some point he just becomes a caricature, and people will simply not take him seriously.
Yeah, indeed. And one of the other things that was quite striking was that when he was asked, would he rule out sending U.S. soldiers to Gaza to perhaps oversee this process, he said he wouldn't rule it out. I mean, do you think he really would start another war? Because didn't he come to power on the ticket that he was going to end wars rather than start new ones?
Look, Donald Trump, on a number of fronts in his first, 2 weeks back in office, has paid scant attention to legalities, whether you're talking about, American law or international law, and this is another case of this. I mean, he is focused on what he perceives to be his mandate, and his mandate is, to help the economy, recover from inflation of the past several years, and to secure the American border from what he describes as uncontrolled, regional and global migration. The last thing that the United States wants, or the last thing that his supporters want, is for us to get entangled in another war in the Middle East. So it really is contrary, to what he campaigned on, and is a diversion from what the American people think is important. But again, it's not that what he said was serious. It is, the implication is that, for example, he craves the idea of achieving a Nobel Peace Prize. Obama has one, he wants one. This is a kind of disqualifying statement that says he's really not interested in any kind of breakthrough in the Middle East, certainly not with respect to, the Palestinians. So if he's going to achieve his Nobel peace aspirations, it's going to have to be with respect to Ukraine, not with respect to the Middle East.
We were just speaking before we crossed you to a former national security advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We were speaking to Major General Yaakov Amidror. He said to me that there were only two options here. One is that the Palestinians who live in Gaza remain there and live in misery, but there'll be no reconstruction, or they relocate and go and live somewhere else. I said to him, there aren't just two solutions, but I'd like to know what you think solutions 3, 4, 5 might look like.
Well, I mean, the prospects of a two-state solution are dim. I mean, the two-state solution has been on life support, for well over a decade, maybe even two. But realistically, the only other option is a one-state solution, with people being stateless and having minimal rights. That is not sustainable in terms of bringing peace or stability to Israel, to the region, and it is in fact contrary to American foreign policy under Democratic and Republican administrations. But it certainly fits with Benjamin Netanyahu's long career as a leader of Israel, going back to his early terms in the 1990s. He has done everything to push the prospect of a Palestinian state out into the indefinite future. And unfortunately, that's pretty much what Donald Trump has just helped him do. At least for the next 4 years, there's not going to be, based on what we heard yesterday, a serious conversation about, a path towards a Palestinian state.
All right. Well, I'm being told we're out of time, but thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. PJ Crowley, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State to President Obama. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, Tom.
Well, in another blow to the people of Gaza, President Trump on Tuesday extended a halt to U.S. funding for the UN Palestinian relief agency, UNRWA. Well, UNRWA provides aid, health and education territory. But after 15 months of intense bombardment, many have found scenes of total devastation on arrival. Well, the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, has launched an emergency fund for Gaza, where children have borne the brunt of this conflict. According to the UN, more than 13,000 children have been killed, 25,000 injured, and thousands more have been traumatized and emotionally scarred by what they've been through. Well, President Trump's proposal that the United States take over the Gaza Strip and permanently resettle its residents has been flatly rejected by Riyad Mansour, the permanent representative of Palestinian territories to the United Nations. Here's what he said.
Our country and our home is the Gaza Strip. It's part of Palestine. We have no home. For those who want to send them to a happy, nice place, let them go back, to their original homes inside Israel. There are nice places there, and they will be happy to return to these places. But in the meantime, our homeland is our homeland. If part of it is destroyed, the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian people selected the choice to return to it. In 2 days, in a span of few hours, 400,000 Palestinians walking returned to the northern part of the Gaza Strip.
OK, well, let's get more now. We can speak to Tess Ingram, spokesperson for UNICEF in Gaza. Tess, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Just wanted to start off by asking you how President Trump's ideas for relocating the people of Gaza have gone down there in Gaza itself, because you're in Gaza City, aren't you?
I'm in Gaza City in the north of Gaza, and I actually spent the day today driving around here and further north up in Jabalia, speaking to families about their situation. And many families had seen this news and did have quite strong reactions to it. I actually had one mother say to me, families in Gaza, like everywhere in the world, are deeply connected to the place where they're born, raised, and have been living all their lives. This is our home. And many people had a similar sentiment of, we've just returned here after 15 months of being separated, often from their loved ones or from their land, and they wanted to come back. They want to rebuild and resettle and restart their lives there. And many of them are doing that. Today, I spent time with a family who were building next to the rubble of their destroyed home in what used to be their garden. They're pitching a tent, and I hope they've got it up in time because it's very wet here now this evening. It's cold and windy, and I think without shelter in Gaza tonight will be miserable.
I mean, pretty much every government in the world agrees with what you just said, that the Palestinian civilians must be allowed to return home, rebuild their homes if necessary, and receive support from the international community. I mean, is there a feeling there that this idea of President Trump's is ever going to see the light of day?
I think people have had so much uncertainty, so much surprise, things that they never thought would happen to them occur in the last 15 months that people here just don't know. They're frightened, but they're defiant. They want to stay, and we support them. Children and their families in Gaza should not be forced to leave. They should be allowed to move freely and voluntarily and get support and protection wherever they are.
Just before we move on and talk a bit more about UNICEF's activities there, I just want to ask you, I mean, has anyone that you've spoken to there suggested, as the President of the United States suggested last night, that the devastation is such that they would rather go and live somewhere else and leave Gaza altogether?
Most people that I speak to want to stay. There have been a couple, very small number, that have said they're interested in leaving. And primarily these have been university students. For example, a 19-year-old girl, Hala, who I spoke to, who was halfway through a medical degree. And she said, I want to go and finish my studies. But I think for the most part, people are intent on staying.
OK, let's talk about the situation in Gaza and what you've been seeing. The ceasefire appears to be holding. Part of the ceasefire meant that aid was supposed to be allowed through and to cross without too many restrictions. Do you get the impression that aid is reaching everyone that needs it there in Gaza?
Not yet, but we're certainly trying. The volume of aid has increased dramatically since the ceasefire. We've gone up now to, as an international humanitarian community, 600 trucks a day, which is a great achievement considering that what we were doing before was really limited. And it shows that we were capable of delivering this volume of aid throughout the war, but we had so many restrictions on our ability to bring that aid in and to move across the Gaza Strip that prevented us from really delivering humanitarian assistance to the people that needed it. So the aid is coming in, but what we can get in 2 weeks is not enough to undo 15 months of deprivation. So there are, of course, people who are still in tremendous need, like this family today who are asking me for winter clothes for their children, for tarpaulins to build shelter because they have nowhere to live. One of the children didn't have shoes. People are still asking for water, for food and for medicine. So there is going to be a lot more that needs to come in to meet people's basic needs before we even begin about thinking about longer-term needs.
Yeah, I mean, it's often said, and for good reason, as we were saying in the introduction, Gaza is the deadliest place in the world to be a child. And this is obviously taking us to your specific area of expertise as a spokesperson for UNICEF. In terms of what children need most there in Gaza, what sorts of supplies are most urgently required?
Yeah, we have been saying for a long time now that Gaza is the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. And that was during the war when, of course, the bombs and the bullets killed and injured children in large numbers. And we saw horrific scenes of children being crushed to death while waiting for flour, of dying of hypothermia in the middle of the night because they didn't have warm shelter, starving from malnutrition. Now, children are no longer being killed by the bombs and the bullets in this ceasefire, but those other humanitarian crises persist. Malnutrition persists, the lack of safe water persists, the lack of adequate medical care persists. So what we're really focused on at the moment as UNICEF is bringing in supplies and scaling up services to meet those needs. For example, we're bringing in nutrition supplies for malnourished kids. We're scaling up malnutrition screenings to find the children that need those supplies. We're bringing in vaccines for immunisation. We're trying to help hospitals set up incubators and neonatal departments so that preterm babies and sick infants have somewhere to go for medical care. We're trying to repair water systems and make sure that access to water is something that every child has, especially in the north of Gaza, where water systems have been decimated by bombardment. So these are just some examples, but it is a really, really big job.
Yeah, and I mean, this ceasefire has been a bittersweet experience, I'd imagine, for thousands of people there as well, children too, who were probably clinging to this dream of returning to their home, if they remembered it as children, you know, having not seen it perhaps for 15 months. Now they've done so, and they've found in so many cases that their home is in a state of ruin, their entire neighbourhood is in a state of ruin. I mean, I'm assuming that's been a huge blow to morale. Is morale low right now?
Yes, it is. And I think this is one of the most important points that we could discuss. People have been hanging on to that hope of going back to their homes, to a loved one that they've been separated from their neighbourhood, a little sweet shop that they used to go to. I spoke to one girl on the way up here from the south who was telling me about her favourite ice cream shop and how she wanted to go back there and try the different flavours that she remembered. Now people are here. I'm not hearing that anymore. People are now talking to me about loss because they have this moment, I think, to suddenly take stock of everything that has been taken from them and understand that it's gone and to grieve that. People are mourning the lives that they used to live and trying to determine how best to move forward. And I think, you know, if we think about perhaps a disaster where somebody comes back to a home that's been ruined, a hurricane or a bushfire or an earthquake, there's generally a safety net around those people to help them rebuild. Perhaps they'll be put in temporary accommodation, or there'll be a council that helps with the cleanup, the removal of dangerous material. That doesn't exist here. So people really are standing in shock in front of rubble and wondering what to do next, whether they go and buy a shovel and start removing that rubble themselves.
And I'm assuming there's some extremely deep emotional scars that have been left on so many of these children. And I'm just wondering whether psychological support is a big part of what UNICEF is focused on there in Gaza.
It is. I actually went to a session the other day. It was a mental health counselling session for a group of 6 to 8-year-olds. And what they were doing was sitting in a circle, drawing pictures of things that they remembered from the last year that made them sad. And then they would explain to the group why that made them sad, and try and work with the counsellors there to process those feelings. UNICEF supports programs like that, and we're really trying to scale them up because there is a tremendous amount of trauma here among children and adolescents who've experienced so much horror. But we estimate that every child in the Gaza Strip needs mental health support. So we will continue scaling up, but this is going to be a long-term project to make sure that children get the care that they need, particularly those children who are demonstrating really severe symptoms. For example, I met one girl who doesn't speak anymore since both of her parents were killed. She's been cared for by her grandmother, who explained that she has barely uttered a word since.
Yeah, I mean, thousands of children must be in that same situation, having lost one or both parents, or having been separated from their families. I'm just wondering what UNICEF's role is in terms of safeguarding those children who are extremely vulnerable in the absence of adult supervision.
We estimate that there's about 17,000 unaccompanied or separated children in the Gaza Strip, and that includes children who may have lost both of their parents. We do what we can to connect them with extended family. We consider kinship care with family as the best place for those children. And so we do family tracing and do our best to put them in the care of those family members. And there are now a considerable number of families in the Gaza Strip who are taking care of children who are not their own. If that fails, we work to find a safe place for that children. We have some NGO partners that help to care for them while we continue tracing to make sure that there is somebody that can bring them into their home, because that is the best place for a child to go. And we've done about 60 of those over the past year, of those very complex reunifications. And in the past couple of weeks, as there's been this mass movement to the north, about 200 children got lost, and we were able to reconnect them again with their parents back in the north.
Yeah, it's tragic. And, you know, so many people say, and it sounds so true, that it is children that bear the brunt of these types of conflict. Just lastly, looking forward, I mean, in terms of your sort of predictions as to what happens next, once this initial phase of the ceasefire is over, does it look to you like we are on track for the next phase?
It's very hard to know from here on the ground what is happening in boardrooms elsewhere. But what I can tell you from this perspective is that the stakes feel very high for us and for the people that we serve here in Gaza. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about the humanitarian crisis, of all of these things that people are grappling with. And I think if the ceasefire was to fail now, I can only imagine the level of despair and death that we would see, because the situation is so fragile.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. Tess Ingram, spokesperson for UNICEF in Gaza City. Thank you very much indeed. In other news, we have all turned at some point to Wikipedia. For many, it's a go-to for quick, summarized information. Well, Wikipedia has become one of the internet's most influential platforms, so much so that people with a wealth of knowledge are often dubbed walking Wikipedias, just like walking encyclopedias. Well, to find out more, we're joined now by the founder of Wikipedia to talk about its evolution, impact, and his latest exchanges with the US tech mogul Elon Musk. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Jimmy Wales. Really great to have you with us from London. I want to start by talking about some headlines that we've been seeing in the last couple of days and weeks. Elon Musk calling Wiki a left-wing propaganda tool. He's even called it Wokepedia. Why is he so angry?
Well, I can't really speak for what goes through Elon's mind. You know, his concern is a perceived left-wing bias of Wikipedia, and that we've gone somehow crazy woke. But every time I try to get examples from people who agree with him, they're very hard-pressed to come up with examples that actually make any sense. Obviously, Wikipedia isn't perfect. You can find entries that are, for a short period of time anyway, biased and so forth. But, you know, within our community, we have a really strong commitment to neutrality, to objectivity. And what I've been saying to Elon is, look, if you're not happy about Wikipedia, the thing to do is encourage thoughtful, kind people who are conservatives to come and join us, come and participate. We're really looking for any examples of bias.
So how do you respond to the accusation, for example, from the Manhattan Institute? It's a think tank which has reported concerns that Wiki is more hard on right-leaning public figures than it is on left-leaning public figures. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, when I look at the actual paper there, it's just not persuasive to me. They don't really marshal all the right kinds of evidence and so forth. I mean, one of the issues is obviously Wikipedia will reflect the media, and so to the extent that we are quoting from major media and so forth, if there's certain language like far right that appear more often than far left, well, that actually can reflect bias in the media, but it also can reflect sort of a current state of the affairs. And in other words, the far left exists, and they're talked about quite a lot, and the far right as well. So, I don't really see that as a massive problem, other than sort of more broadly to say, gee, like the media should probably rein in the way they talk about things and really strive hard for neutrality.
Now, Mr. Musk, but first of all, do you know Elon Musk? Do you ever have any exchanges with him directly, or is this all being played out in the public arena?
No, yeah, I know him, and he's very friendly. Friendlier privately than publicly, let's just say.
All right, well, he, of course, paid $44 billion US for Twitter, which he renamed X. And then back in October 2023, he offered to buy Wikipedia for $1 billion, I think it was, with various conditions. You rejected that offer. What would it take to make you reconsider?
No, I mean, so Wikipedia is a charity, so we're like the Red Cross, say. So the idea of selling Wikipedia doesn't actually make any sense. But also, I think it's really important, culturally important, that we have a place where people come together to try and understand the world, to have civil discourse, really looking into the facts, really trying to write things in a fair and neutral way. It's never going to be perfect, of course, but if we don't have that space, it becomes really hard to make progress in the world, because instead we just get people screaming at each other. You get all the kinds of misinformation and disinformation, which Elon Musk is notorious for spreading things that aren't true. And, we really need to say, okay, slow down. Let's think. There are a lot of problems in the world. Let's chew on all the sides of the issue and make sure we understand each other before we act, because the alternative is violence and basically making bad decisions.
Yeah, so you could argue, couldn't you, that the guardrails and the importance of guardrails are perhaps more important now than at any point in Wikipedia's 25-year history, given the times we live in?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that I believe we've seen, not across the board, but in many places, is a media landscape that has become more fragmented and more divided, more polarizing, more polarized. Certainly in the United States, you can say politics is extremely polarized there, both the public's view of politics, but also in Congress, the instances of people working together in a civil way to find compromises that work for more people are very hard to find these days. It's really like whoever's in charge pushes as hard as they can, rather than saying, okay, let's try and work together and govern effectively. So, yeah, I think definitely these ideas of building trust in each other, building trust in the knowledge that we have, is more important than ever before.
So just to be clear, before we move on, Wikipedia is not and cannot be for sale.
It is not and cannot be for sale, no. No interest whatsoever.
Elon Musk, of course, very upset about accusations that he made a Nazi salute, and he went on to demand a boycott of Wikipedia until his entry, or the entry on Nazi salutes in general, was changed. Have people heeded that call to stop funding Wikipedia?
No, I mean, actually, we normally get a nice surge in donations every time he says don't give money to Wikipedia. It's sort of like he's kind of seeing fewer car sales with his behavior. People don't do what Elon says. They respond to Elon in certain ways. And I think he's doing himself far more harm than he's doing to us, that's for sure. But we do worry about it, of course.
Okay, he wants that defunding to continue until balance is restored, he said. So you're saying that his declarations of this kind have absolutely no impact on Wiki's finances?
No, No, not that we've seen so far, but and I think it's unlikely that it would. I mean, I think people can look at things and say, gee, actually, the piece he was complaining about the salute, Wikipedia didn't say it was a Nazi salute. Wikipedia reported that he made a gesture, reported that lots of people said it looked like a Nazi salute, reported that he denied it. And those are just the facts. Like, there's nothing controversial about saying that's what happened. If Wikipedia said Elon made a Nazi salute, and we don't care if he said he didn't, we say it is anyway, then we would be biased. Then that wouldn't be fair. But to say, look, here's some facts, here's some things that happened, learn about it and make up your own mind.
It is, of course, a very unusual model. It must have sounded extremely revolutionary, when it was launched 25 years ago, being a participatory encyclopedia. I mean, no one had ever heard of one until 25 years ago. But how do you go about making sure that it's got neither a left-wing nor a right-wing bias?
Well, I think there's no real magic to that. I mean, it really depends on us having a healthy community, on having an openness to dialogue, openness to discourse. We have rules about neutrality, rules about quality sourcing. It really, it could go in a really bad and a really dark direction. I mean, people used to be concerned to be taken over by trolls or whatever it might be. Instead, we just have to, it's like, how can a journalistic organization make sure that they're adhering to proper journalistic principles and really reporting fairly on all sides? Well, there's no magic button. You just have to do it. It's hard work, and you have to really think about it and be passionate about it.
Do you have any role in the sort of the day-to-day entry writing of Wikipedia entries? Do you ever see something and call it out? Rarely.
My role is really more about coaching, really about reminding people of our values, of helping people think through how can we resolve certain issues and things like that. It's not for me. I'm not the final arbiter of what goes into a Wikipedia entry, and nor should I be.
Okay, of course, nobody in the world is politically neutral, and that goes for you as well, I'm sure, sir. I mean, do you make it public how you identify politically?
I mean, a little bit. I'm very centrist. My politics are very boring. When I see certain things going on in the world, there are certain things like if you think back on something like Obamacare in the U.S., sort of a big restructuring of how the healthcare system works. I was like, I'm not an expert on healthcare, so nobody wants to know my opinion, or if they do want to know it, they shouldn't, because what do I know? Very little. At the same time, I do have views on things that I am an expert on, things about internet freedom, about freedom of expression, about the importance of dialogue and discourse and thoughtfulness and kindness online. So in that sense, yes, I do occasionally express opinions. But, generally, I don't like people on the far left and I don't like people on the far right. I don't think those are ever going to be the right answers. We need lots of thoughtful, kind people in the center saying, okay, look, we're not going to agree about everything, but let's work through things. Let's find policies that tend to lead to a better life on Earth.
Okay, I won't probe you too much on this one, but just one last attempt here. Were you cheering or perhaps not during the inauguration of President Trump 2 weeks ago?
I mean, definitely not. But I think I should hasten to add, I really dislike Donald Trump's style. I don't like the way he behaves. I think he's arrogant, disrespectful, the opposite of the kind of thoughtful discourse that I would like to see. And all of that is about him personally, not about any particular policies, although, to be fair, I disagree with a lot of his policies, too. I agree with a few of them. Elon's working very hard to cut waste in government, and that's obviously a huge amount of noise right now about that. Well, what does that mean? I'm not sure, but I certainly would like to see less waste in government. So, to some extent, I think it's good if the government is taking a hard look at everything in a much more business-like way to say, where are we just wasting money doing things that we shouldn't be doing in the first place? Great, I'm all for that. I might agree or disagree with 1,000 different cuts in various places. But, I would prefer if we were doing all of this in a less combative and less hostile environment.
Okay, now we all use Wikipedia. I have to confess, I quite often look up stats and factoids on Wikipedia. The people who contribute are known as Wikipedians. Tell us a bit about who they are and how they're chosen.
Yeah, so I mean, Wikipedians tend to be very nice, geeky people. That's kind of the core personality type. They're very nerdy and they really want to get the facts right. They care more about Wikipedia than do any of these kind of social debates and things like that. At least the best Wikipedians try to not show bias and so forth. You know, it's a hobby that people are very passionate about, and I think it's kind of cool.
Okay, and they're anonymous and they're not paid. So what's the incentive? What drives a Wikipedian, do you think?
So they're anonymous only in the sense that, you know, they're not becoming famous. They're not social media influencers, and they're not bloggers, and they're not tweeting. Some of them might tweet, but they know each other. I mean, we know them, and they know each other, and they're just sort of normal geeky people. The main things people get out of it are two, I would say. One, it's fun. Like if you're really, really into, I don't know, trains, you can come to Wikipedia and find other people who are super geeky about trains, and you can help, you know, write about all the different history of the train system and individual train cars and all of that kind of stuff that train geeks like. So it's fun in that sense, but also I think you can spend time online and sort of, I think a lot of people have had this experience. You accidentally got sucked into TikTok for 2 hours and you think, oh my God, I'm wasting my life. This is not good. I shouldn't be doing this. This isn't great. Whereas if you spend 2 hours improving the Wikipedia entry, you can go to bed thinking, you know what? I made the world a little bit better. Somebody's going to read this and they're going to learn from what I've written. And that's a great thing. So that's one of the big motivations.
A long time ago, I worked for an American TV channel, and I had a boss who forbade us from using Wikipedia. She kept saying to us that Wikipedia is not a source, she used to say to us. What would you say to her?
Say, that's right. You're exactly right. Yeah. Wikipedia is not a source. You shouldn't use it. The same reason you shouldn't really look something up in an encyclopedia, particularly in a journalistic context. What I would say is you shouldn't say don't read Wikipedia. You should say read Wikipedia, get yourself oriented, and then go to the talk page of the article and see what are the Wikipedians struggling with? What are the questions that people have that haven't really been answered? That's your good questions as a journalist. That's where you go and you go actually talk to the real sources, which is, you know, the people, the companies, the organizations that you're reporting on.
Yeah, another example of how we use Wikipedia in the workplace, and I think a lot of TV anchors will identify with this. You know, when someone dies, you know, you get breaking news, and you suddenly have to do, you know, a fact check on who someone was and get their bio in front of you. And what always amazes me is if the wires have only just announced that the person has died, Wikipedia seems to have already been updated. How on earth do you manage to update a page that quickly and even have a little section entitled Death to talk about the person who's just departed?
Yeah, well, we got a lot of volunteers, and they, you know, they like to do that. I mean, I don't think I've ever done that because I'm not fast enough. But my little fun hobby is at every recent royal wedding, I changed the name to the new title. I try to do it before anybody else. So far, I'm successful. So just people enjoy doing it, you know, and sometimes it's people who are fans of that person. Sometimes it's people who are just happen to see the thing come across the news and they just quickly go and edit and make a change. So, yeah, it's a very busy, active community.
And how many sort of layers of checking occur to make sure that you haven't accidentally killed someone off that isn't in fact dead?
Yeah, I mean, there's a great story, actually. When Michael Jackson died, it was for several hours only reported in a well-known gossip blog, which is not really considered to be a fantastic source. I mean, it's a blog and may or may not have fact-checking. But there was a big debate in Wikipedia, like, should we cover it? And people said, no, let's wait until any sort of standard news outlet reports it. And so we were actually kind of late on that one because of the way that it came into the public eye. So the community is always thinking about these issues. They're always discussing, debating, and so forth. And in that case, if you went back and looked at the history, I suspect it was changed and changed back a couple of times as somebody was like, no, look, it says it here, he's dead. And then people are like, hold on, that's not really confirmed yet. Let's not put that in.
Wikipedia is coming up for its first quarter of a century. There's a big birthday coming up fairly soon. Very hard to imagine the world without Wikipedia. I'll hand you that.
That's for sure.
And it calls itself the world's free encyclopedia. Will it always be free?
Oh, yeah. That is something that there's no question about. So Wikipedia is a charity. Our mission is to give away a free encyclopedia to everyone in the world. It's really at the heart of what we do. We don't have any advertising on the site. That's also very important because it would raise all kinds of incentive problems. We would be tempted to go down the path of clickbait and all of that sort of thing. So we do rely on donations, and the vast majority of the money that funds Wikipedia is from small donors, giving in, $25, that sort of thing. So that's all really important to us, and we won't change anything about that.
How did you come up with the idea?
Well, I was watching the growth of free software, most people call it open source software, and seeing programmers coming together to collaborate in new ways, using free licensing as a model to deal with incentive issues. And I realized that kind of collaboration could extend beyond software into all kinds of cultural works, and the encyclopedia was the obvious place to start. And it turns out that was an idea a lot of people liked.
Yeah, and it was in 2001, long before... social media started really having impact that it has in the area we live in now. I mean, did you imagine at the time that we'd find ourselves a quarter of a century later in a situation where truth and facts were sort of up for debate?
I mean, it's a little frustrating because, sort of my vision and my role is to say, look, let's put together a very calm, neutral body of facts. And we try to address all the major points of view and explain them fairly, and people can learn from that and decide and so forth. And, now we're in this really chaotic and noisy place where algorithms are driving anger and misinformation flies around like crazy, and the richest man in the world posts complete nonsense on a regular basis. I wish it were different, but the only thing I know to do is just keep plugging away.
You recently said that the decline of trust in journalism and politics, quote, sometimes translates into people feeling more angry and lost. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I've misquoted you. Were you talking specifically about the United States, or do you think that's something, do you think the same can be said of lots of other countries as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure that was an exact quote, but it's close enough. It sounds like me. Yeah, I think it's a problem not just in the United States. I think it's felt particularly acutely in the United States, but I think all around the world we've seen a decline in local newspapers, a rise in sort of fractured publics. Some places are better than others. Some smaller countries are more harmonious societies to start with. They don't have the same divisions. But I think it's globally, it's definitely we've seen a rise in it. And we're beginning to see, the rise of things like tariffs and trade wars, which is very bad for everybody. And, I think we're going to sort of feel the consequences for a while until people come to their senses. So.
Sure, and I'm just wondering as well, sort of looking at the global wiki in the global context, you presumably get complaints, lots of complaints in the United States. Well, we know that because we were talking about it earlier on. Do you get complaints from other countries? People saying you've unfairly characterized our head of state or unfairly described our history, the history of our country?
Yeah, I mean, certainly just because the whole world is a big and noisy place. There's a complaint about almost anything you can think of. So, of course we do. We don't really experience that many places that are trying to threaten us legally, certainly not at the state level. We do occasionally have to deal with things. We were blocked in Turkey for about 3 years, and we won a case in the Supreme Court in Turkey to be unblocked, and we're very proud of that. But there's always something going on. But what we do is just stick to our principles. We say, look, we want to make Wikipedia as good as it possibly can be. If there's something negative about your leader, your country, or whatever, we are going to report on that. But we're going to report on the debate, not, take a side on that debate.
Well, that is all we have time for on this special edition of Global News Today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to join us again on Monday for more exclusive interviews. Until then, bye-bye.
Toronto, home to about 2.7 million people, Toronto is Canada's largest city, and the sprawling city filled with distinct neighborhoods offers a diverse mix of attractions to see, places to visit, and destinations to check out. Perhaps the most popular is the Niagara Falls, one of the 7 wonders of the world. A highly recommended way to see the famous falls is through the Maid of the Mist boat ride, which allows you to get right up close to it and immerse yourself in its enormity. Another popular site is the Dundas Square, often compared to New York's Times Square. The place is often used in the production of popular blockbuster hits because its setting is quite easy to film in. The city is also quite popular for its lineup of major art museums. The Art Gallery of Ontario, Toronto Gallery of Inuit Arts, and the Gardiner Museum of Ceramic Art makes Toronto a burgeoning art community. Great art alternatives can also be found lining the streets of Queen West, Ossington, Queen East, and the Distillery District. Every year, the art scene in Toronto is also taken over by contemporary artists during Nuit Blanche, an all-night arts festival that runs from dusk till dawn. You'll also want to walk by the Graffiti Alley in the Fashion District, Toronto street that's legally tagged with an entire walking tour of murals by local street creatives. There's also the Distillery District, a cobblestone and usually carless street, featuring industrial houses that feature galleries, fashion designers, and artisan food products. Toronto is also host to an entire lineup of alternative dance and music fests. Some of the most popular include Digital Dreams, Electric Island, and Mad Decent Block Party. In June, travelers flock to the 17-day festival called Luminato. The Four Seasons Center for the Performing Arts is the place for opera and ballet shows. It is home to the Canadian Opera Company and the National Ballet of Canada. You may also want to try hiking or biking to the Toronto Islands nearby. It's just a ferry ride away. Plus, you'll get to see the city skyline at sunset. The sandy beaches are worth the trip, and the eclectic Wards Island is an interesting community to explore.
At Arabiya News, we go beyond the headlines.
From the latest breaking news to in-depth coverage of global events.
We're not bought or sold. Nobody owns us.
The loss of life, the destruction of property. The conflicts are such a terrible thing.
Context and analysis to help you see the full picture.
The world is in a very dangerous place.
Join us on Arabiya News,
It's very impressive.
where knowledge meets perspective.
From the White House to Gaza, Kyiv to Beijing, elections, economics, and the environment compete with conflicts and other complex issues for our attention. In an age of fake news, deepfake, and artificial intelligence,
They've got to have a vote and a say.
it's important to look beyond the loudest voice to understand the truth. From newsmakers to groundbreakers,
My campaign is going very well.
presidents, prime ministers, princes and peacemakers, and cultural tastemakers.
As Arabs, as Middle Eastern, we're too emotional.
Join me on The Riz Khan Show for empowering conversation.